in English.
Israel's only English news channel, bringing you the headlines that matter every hour, straight from the center of where it's all unfolding.
Back to ILTV on the Hour. I'm Caleb Ben David, coming to you live from Israel, bringing you all the biggest headlines from the region. It's 2 p.m. here in Israel, 7 a.m. in New York City. Here are the latest developments. A U.S. official says Iran has agreed to present a detailed proposal within the next 2 weeks as talks continue over Tehran's nuclear program. Following a second round of negotiations in Geneva, the official said progress was made, but many details remain unresolved. Now, according to the official, Iranian representatives told the U.S. side they would return with specific proposals to close gaps between the two positions. Earlier in the day, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and Omani mediators expressed optimism about the direction of the talks.
A new window of opportunity has opened, under which we had the second round of the negotiations with the United States earlier today here in Geneva. We are hopeful that negotiation will lead to a sustainable and negotiated solution which can serve the interest of relevant parties and the broader region. At the same time, as demonstrated during the aggression of 13 June 2025, Iran remains fully prepared to defend itself against any threat or act of aggression. The consequences of any attack against Iran will not be confined to its borders.
U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, commenting on the talks, said all options still remain on the table.
I think the president has a lot of options. We do have a very powerful military. The president's shown a willingness to use it. He also has a remarkable diplomatic team. He's shown a willingness to use that too. And so what the president has been very clear with the Iranians, and actually I just talked to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner this morning about some of their negotiations, is the United States has certain red lines. Our primary interest here is we don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. We don't want nuclear proliferation.
Meanwhile, the U.S. military buildup in the region continues, with an American official telling reporters 50 more fighter jets were recently deployed to the Middle East. And Iran's Fars news agency reported that the Iranian and Russian navies will conduct a joint military drill in the Gulf of Oman, the same area where some U.S. naval forces have been deployed in recent weeks. And inside Iran, families across the country have been defying heavy security to honor victims of the January protests, as a 40th day memorial in their honor marks a powerful symbol of resistance. Across Iran, mourners gathered at gravesides, holding memorials for those killed in the crackdown on January 8th and 9th. Despite warnings from security forces, cemetery closures, and heavy patrols, these families performed traditional rituals, released doves, and even danced in grief. Videos show crowds chanting "Death to Khamenei" and applauding the slain, this despite internet disruptions that were reported in several areas. Now, the victims of last month's crackdown ranged widely in age, including teenagers and young adults, highlighting the heavy toll on Iran's youth. Meanwhile, the government held its own ceremony, which was attended by senior regime officials. Analysts say the 40th day memorial has become a potent symbol of public defiance, illustrating the deep wounds left by the regime's crackdown and the continuing determination of Iranians to honor those killed. In other news, an IDF soldier has been killed in what the military is describing as a friendly fire incident in southern Gaza overnight. The fallen soldier is named as Staff Sergeant Ofri Yaffe, 21 years old. He was a fighter in the Paratrooper Brigade's reconnaissance unit, and he was from HaYogev. The IDF says he was fatally hit by gunfire from other Israeli forces during operations in the area. The circumstances of the incident are under further investigation. The military has extended its condolences to his family. Back to the U.S., Washington, D.C. is readying for tomorrow's inaugural Board of Peace meeting chaired by U.S. President Donald Trump. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar will represent Israel as the body prepares to oversee post-war Gaza with the demand for Hamas to be fully disarmed as called for in President Trump's 20-point Gaza peace plan. Now, Sa'ar left for Washington last night to present Israel's position at the board, also to attend a UN Security Council session in New York. Leaders from 28 countries are due to attend the Board of Peace meeting, including from Qatar and Turkey. This was despite Israeli objections. President Trump says the leaders have already pledged some $5 billion to the reconstruction of Gaza. Indonesia has become the first country to publicly agree to participate in an international stabilization force that will be deployed in Gaza. The board is designed to manage reconstruction in Gaza and implement the U.S. peace plan. Hamas has called on its members to pressure Israel over alleged ceasefire violations, while Israel rejects those claims and says the IDF has targeted dozens of terror operatives who attacked troops or tried to infiltrate the Yellow Line since the October ceasefire. Israel is demanding that Hamas be disarmed and have no role in post-war Gaza, as per the terms of the Gaza peace deal. Elsewhere, the IDF says an Israeli airstrike has killed 2 Palestinian Islamic Jihad operatives as they attempted to cross from Lebanon into Syria. According to the army, the strike took place near the village of Majd al-Anja in Lebanon's eastern Bekaa Valley, along the main road between Beirut and Damascus, about 40 kilometers from Israel's border. The IDF says the men have been working in recent months to advance terror activities from against Israel from Lebanese territory and pose an immediate threat to Israeli civilians and troops operating in the Syrian arena. And staying in Lebanon, where Hezbollah has now rejected a Lebanese government peace plan that would give the army 4 months to advance a nationwide disarmament process aimed primarily at stripping the Iran-backed terrorist group of its weapons. Now, the Lebanese cabinet tasked the army last year with bringing all armed groups under state control following the 2023-2024 war with Israel. This week, officials said the army would have 4 months and perhaps more to move forward, including restricting weapons north of the Litani River. Now, joining us now for more on all these issues is Yoni Ben Menachem. He's from the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs. And with us from the United States, Travis Hawley. He's a national security analyst and former U.S. Air Force intelligence. Yoni, I want to start with you because even as I discussed, some of these officials say there might have been some progress at the Geneva talks. Reports just coming in the last couple of hours indicating the situation may be closer to a U.S. military strike on Iran than perhaps was assumed. What are you hearing on this?
I hear from senior Israeli security sources that this is the estimation in Israel also because the gaps are still big between the Iranians and the Americans, and Iranians are not even getting closer to the red lines of President Trump. We already saw 2 rounds of talks between the Americans and the Iranians, and I don't think they will be able to close the gaps because the Iranians would not even discuss the ballistic missiles and the activity of their proxies in the Middle East. So I think that once Trump will accomplish the deployment of all the forces that he wants to deploy in the Middle East, and I think he's getting there in a few days, then I think we can anticipate the beginning of a series of military strikes, airstrikes on Iran.
Travis, let me get your estimation. We know, certainly we see this military buildup going, but President Trump has made clear he wants to give diplomacy a chance. He would prefer a deal. So how close do you think? There was an estimation. People were saying that, well, he'll give it, let's say, at least a month before he moves ahead on a strike.
Yeah, I think that window of opportunity is rapidly closing. You could even say it's already closed. And simply what we're seeing now is strategic political theater. And just as Yoni said, that there is irreconcilable differences. This is what people should have realized from the beginning, that these talks were pretty much going to go nowhere fast, because the demands that the U.S. has are exactly the things the Islamic Republic of Iran said that they would never address. And there's even things beyond that, like where is the highly enriched uranium that has disappeared? There are so many other items as well that aren't publicly discussed. And right now we're just seeing a massive buildup of U.S. military in the region. Some would even estimate this is probably the largest we've seen in decades, especially since the war in Iraq. So I think right now what we're seeing is mostly political theater and buying time by both sides, as the U.S. and potentially Israel prepare for preemptive offensive strikes, and the Islamic Republic is preparing itself for defensive posture.
And Yoni, one of these reports we just discussed in Axios says that it could be unlike what happened, for example, last June. This is an operation that could take several weeks. But to what goal then? What would be the goal? And that goal in last June, we knew it was specifically to target Iran's nuclear program, which has been severely damaged at this point. So what would be the goal of these, perhaps U.S. and maybe joint U.S. and Israeli strikes?
Well, I don't have any accurate information. I can only estimate that the Americans, President Trump and his team, they understand that they cannot topple the Iranian regime by airstrikes. So I think what they will do is try to target the supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, and kill him. And once they get rid of him, it will be easier to try to negotiate with other senior officials in the Revolutionary Guards. So I think that one of the first strike will be aimed to the leaders, the extreme leaders of the Iranian regime. They will leave some of them out, so there will be an address to negotiate during the attacks that will take a few weeks, at least 2 weeks. That's what I understand. And I think that at the same opportunity, there will be strikes on the military, on the nuclear facilities that were already bombed last summer, just to make sure that they will not be able to take out the uranium, the enriched uranium, which is buried there. And of course, there will be a preemptive strike on the launchers and the factories that manufacture the ballistic missiles. So these are the targets that will be attacked.
Right. And Travis, so we are talking about, it appears at this stage, a more extensive military operation than we saw last June. You yourself mentioned this seems to be a bigger military buildup, something more akin to what we saw in the wars against Iraq. We know that there are different voices in the administration, people perceived as more hawkish towards Iran, like Secretary of State Rubio, those perceived as perhaps preferring diplomacy, maybe Vice President Vance and others. How much of, I would say, kind of like an appetite is there both within the administration and within the American public, including in President Trump's base, for a more extended military operation and involvement against Iran this time around?
Yeah, that's actually a very, very important point, especially to the audience outside of the United States, that they don't understand, like, why hasn't the U.S. acted already, especially after President Trump said that help is on the way. And the fact of the matter is there is very little political appetite for war in the United States, both on the left and the right. And this creates tremendous headwinds for operationalizing any type of military strike against any target, regardless if it was the Islamic Republic of Iran or any others. So this is actually a difficult political decision by the administration, and to some degree, maybe why it is happening slower than others may have estimated or wanted, because we just live in an era of a very anti-war American public, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But what I think we're seeing now is that the administration went through our four instruments of power, which we call DIME, so diplomatic, informational, military, and economic, and they've used some soft powers and diplomacy through the D and the E, the diplomatic and economic, through Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, and realized these red lines that we have are likely to stay where they're at, and that only leaves us a couple more options, and that includes military intervention. And what we're seeing now objectively is a massive rollout of U.S. military assets, from transportation of the C-5 and C-17, bringing in it's probably classified, but I'm sure air defense assets and other armaments. And we're also seeing the movement of jets. So our combat jets, F-35s, F-22s. So I think right now what we're seeing is, despite the political theater and the lack of appetite for any type of war, what we're seeing is an inevitability of that shape.
Yoni, I want to go back. Some of those reports we've just been discussing had one official saying that maybe they would be even nervous booking a flight for this weekend. Again, we're talking, as you've already said, something beyond what we saw last June in terms of the duration. Certainly, if the supreme leader is targeted, we can expect Iran to hit back at Israel with everything it had. How prepared is Israel, both the military, and I have to ask for the home front, for really what could be even far more, certainly more extensive than what it experienced last June?
Well, I think that the Iranians, if the Americans will strike first, then the Iranians will try to deteriorate the situation into a regional war. That means that will involve the Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen and the militias in Iraq, to participate in the war and attack Israel and attack the Americans if they can. I think that President Trump wants to convene tomorrow the peace conference that he is planning for a long time already, and then afterwards the coast is clear to begin the campaign against Iran. This will be a long war. In wars, you know how you start it, you never know how you finish it. But this war will be definitely more intensive because the Iranians are in the corner, they're pushed to the corner, they don't have anything to lose, so they will use whatever they got and use all the proxies that can support it.
Right. I did mention, Travis, that the Iran announcing the Fars agency a joint military naval exercise with Russian naval forces involved in the Gulf of Oman and the Indian Ocean. Is there any danger, other than making a lot of noise, of Russia in some way getting involved in this in some manner of trying to prevent the downfall of a regime that, of course, it's become very close with, especially in the last couple of years?
I think at most it's more of a deterrence move and a really just sort of a threat by the Islamic Republic of Iran by associating another nation in which we have poor relations with currently. I think miscalculation could be really the greatest risk here in the event that the U.S. or Israel, for whatever reason, incidentally, accidentally hit some type of Russian asset. But I think at the end of the day, despite the relations between Russia and the Islamic Republic as it pertains mostly to like drone warfare, I don't think Russia has the capacity or the appetite to get involved in a war or even a skirmish that involves Iran at this point. They're very bogged down and preoccupied with Ukraine. So, of course, there is a risk of miscalculation there. But I think at the end of the day, Russia doesn't want to involve itself in this. And the Islamic Republic of Iran is simply using this as a last-ditch effort to try to show some deterrence against U.S. strikes.
Right. And Yoni, you mentioned the Board of Peace meeting set to take place tomorrow in Washington, D.C. A lot of speculation about whether Israel would attend, or even Prime Minister Netanyahu. In the end, he sent Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar there. First of all, should Israel be participating in this meeting with potentially the leaders of Qatar and Turkey? And what should be Gideon Sa'ar's message? What is he going to actually do there at that meeting?
Well, we cannot boycott the peace plan of President Trump after we agreed for it. And so, once this is the first conference of the Board of Peace, we cannot be absent. We have to participate. Netanyahu, for obvious reasons, did not go there. He doesn't want to sit at the same table with Erdogan and whoever will be the Qatari representative. So he sent the Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar. I think the Israeli position is very clear that Israel will demand that there will be no progress of implementing the second phase of the Trump peace plan in Gaza without making sure first that Hamas is disarmed, completely disarmed, and not in stages, but complete disarmament. This is going to be the Israel condition for any advancement in the implementation of the second phase of this plan.
Right. And let me ask you about that, Travis, because as Yoni mentioned, there's been some concern among Israeli officials that the disarmament of Hamas will be a bit of a show. It'll be done in stages. Hamas will be asked to give up heavy weapons, whatever they are, but keep sidearms. Do you think that President Trump, who really wants to see this plan advance, is going to be, adhere to this kind of strictness of Hamas completely giving up its arms, the Gaza Strip demilitarizing before we advance further into the next steps of the peace plan?
Look, I think there's a dream scenario here that we somehow are able to convince Hamas to disarm itself willingly, especially as we see some of its remaining leaders publicly exclaim that they will never do such, which was, of course, always the fear on the Israeli side. And Trump, of course, is doing what he should do, is at least publicly pressuring, saying, you better do it or else. And of course, this is one of Trump's main tools that has, in general worked for him. But I'm not sure that pressure on Hamas right now is very helpful, because Hamas has shown no willingness to do that yet. I think the difficulty will be as if this international stabilization force, which will be discussed tomorrow as well, some maybe 8,000 Indonesian troops and others, if they are able to deploy into Gaza, what kind of trouble that would make if Hamas is not disarmed yet either. Could that cause some skirmishes between these two different security forces? So I think right now it is still, as it was the last few weeks, very fragile, very unclear, and what leverage is left to push Hamas to actually disarm. So I think in all practicality, to answer your question, I think if we're going to be realistic, if we even hypothetically think Hamas would disarm, I think the only way that it would happen is either through force, which is somewhat of a renewal of war, or if they could be convinced to actually just trickle down their weapons ever so slowly, which most people are not willing to wait for.
And I just finally want to ask, go ahead, Yoni.
Caleb, I think that since the United States is very busy with Iran, I think that what President Trump will do, he will give a deadline to Hamas to disarm itself within 60 days. And this will give him time to finish the job with Iran. And meanwhile, we'll be watching closely if Hamas is going there or not. And then afterwards, if he does not comply with the demand of Trump with this deadline or ultimatum, whatever it will be, then there might be a green light for Israel to do the job.
I just wanted to ask you, Yoni, Indonesia, Israel's has always refused to have diplomatic relations with Israel, even though there have been rumors of secret contacts between Israel and Indonesia for years. I mean, should Israel welcome the introduction of Indonesian troops into Gaza?
Yes, we don't have any problems with Indonesia. You know, I think that behind the scenes, there's a progress of normalization started already. The Indonesian president was supposed to visit here in Israel, a secret visit, but it was leaked to the press, so everything is postponed. In any case, this force, Indonesian force or any other force that will come to Gaza will not be deployed in the area which Hamas controls. It will be deployed in the east of the yellow line where Israel is, where the IDF is deployed, and it's supposed to be a barrier between the IDF and Hamas. That they refuse to engage with Hamas and try to disarm it. So the only force that can do the job is the IDF.
All right. That certainly seems to be the case with Gaza. Gentlemen, Travis Hawley and Yoni Ben Menachem, thank you for joining us on ILTV.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And moving on, the Muslim holiday of Ramadan began last night in Israel, Judea and Samaria and Gaza after the new crescent moon was officially sighted across much of the region. Official moon sighting committees in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar announced that the new moon was seen, which marks the start of the Muslim holy month. Palestinian media reported that the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem and the Palestinian territories also confirmed the sighting. In Oman, however, the moon was not spotted, and Ramadan will begin there tonight. In Jerusalem and across the West Bank, Palestinians decorated streets and shops with colorful lights and ornaments, stocking up in food and sweets ahead of the daily fast. Near Hebron, a giant illuminated Ramadan crescent was erected to draw visitors and revive local businesses after months of tension. Ramadan, which is the 9th and holiest month in the Islamic calendar, is a time of fasting from dawn to dusk, prayer and community. It concludes with the festival of Eid al-Fitr at the next new moon. And in a related item, the IDF has published a message on social media wishing a peaceful Ramadan to those observing the month. But at the same time, the Israeli Defense Forces is intensifying its nightly operations in Judea and Samaria during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan to prevent attacks and maintain stability during a highly sensitive period. The IDF says arrest raids and troop reinforcements are underway in key flashpoints, with a focus on Nablus in northern Samaria. Forces are working to dismantle terror networks and thwart attacks against Israeli civilians, both in the territories and inside Israel. In recent weeks, security forces have arrested suspected militants and incitement figures, while also holding warning talks with former security prisoners. In Jerusalem, authorities are finalizing arrangements for access to the Temple Mount as police prepare for large crowds there. Officials say the combination of strong security and community outreach is aimed at ensuring a calm and peaceful Ramadan despite regional tensions. And moving to diplomacy, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to visit Israel this Sunday, this according to the Office of Prime Minister Netanyahu. The high-profile trip highlights the growing ties between Jerusalem and New Delhi. Modi will be in Israel for 2 days, February 25th and 26th. It's his first official visit since 2017. He is expected to meet Prime Minister Netanyahu and other leaders to discuss expanding bilateral cooperation in defense, technology, trade, and regional security. During his visit, Modi is anticipated to make an address at the Knesset, a symbolic step underlying the strategic relationship between the two democracies. Now, this visit follows several high-level exchanges over the past year and is seen as part of a broader push to deepen partnership and amid global and regional challenges. In India, the announcement generated some debate, with some political figures criticizing the government for not sharing details directly before the announcement by Israel. Now, Modi's previous visit to Israel in July 2017 was historic, marking a new era of diplomatic and strategic cooperation between the two nations. And in financial news, Israeli shipping giant Zim has been sold to Germany's Hapag-Lloyd company in a deal which is valued at $4.2 billion. The agreement was signed in Tel Aviv with a German delegation led by Hapag-Lloyd CEO Ralph Haben Jensen, traveling to Israel to finalize the transaction. The company is expected to outline its strategic plans in a joint news conference with Israeli and German media. Under the terms of the deal, Hapag-Lloyd will sell Zim's Israeli operations to FIMI, the FIMI Private Equity Fund, which is a move aimed at preserving a strong and independent Israeli shipping president. FIMI CEO Ishai Davidi said the fund recognizes the strategic importance of maintaining an Israeli shipping company and plans to establish a new Zim with a modern, efficient fleet and broad logistics capabilities. Now, this sale is one of the largest transactions in Israel's maritime history and has drawn attention over the transfer of a strategic national company to foreign ownership. And that ends this update on ILTV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Khaled Ben David.
Good evening and welcome to ILTV Insider. I'm Ayan Hoffman, Executive Editor here at ILTV News. Tonight we're diving into some of the biggest questions facing Israel right now, from the Iran negotiations and President Trump's role to Prime Minister Netanyahu's political future, rising tensions inside Israeli society, and what October's elections could mean for the country. Joining me for what I promise will be a spirited and thoughtful debate are two Israeli activists, Uri Zaki and Malka Fleischer. So let's get started. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Of course. Now, we're speaking today as negotiations with Iran are taking place. President Trump appears very serious about reaching some kind of deal. Should he be even signing a deal at all, I think is the question on the table. Uri, what are your thoughts?
Listen, if he could reach a deal where Iran is first giving up all its nuclear capacity, current and future one. Second, seriously limiting its ballistic missile program in a way that cannot, affect American allies and first and foremost Israel. And third, stopping the proxy, financing and supporting its proxies in the region. And again, for Israel, that's mainly Hezbollah and the Houthis. Then I guess it's a good agreement, although it does not meet the expectations of the Iranian public that went out to the streets and Trump said, "I have your backs."
Right, and then also, Uri, it doesn't really even...
If something like that can happen, yeah, why not?
Well, I mean, Uri, it doesn't even meet the standards of Prime Minister Netanyahu and the people of Israel who have been fearful of the nuclear weapons. Malka, turning to you, do you believe that diplomacy
I said, if it eliminates any Iranian nuclear capacity, I'll repeat, because you're attributing something to me, something I did not say. I said, if it completely and altogether, both present and future nuclear capacity. Second, ballistic missile, not in a range that covers Israel or other U.S. allies. And third, the proxies. I do not see such an agreement relevant with this regime. But if that can happen from an Israeli perspective, yeah, that could be a good deal.
Right. So again, you know exactly what you said. I'm not going against what you said, but I think from a diplomacy perspective, the chances of having a deal that achieves all three of those goals the way that you're expecting or that we're hoping is a little bit utopian. So, I mean, tell me also, Malka, internally, if we would see such a deal like that, what would it actually mean for the region? And here at home, after Netanyahu pushed so hard to ensure that those three issues that Uri brought up would be achieved, and the likelihood of them truly being achieved in a deal is slim to none, what would that then say about our own government's handling of security?
Well, it's fun to agree with somebody on this show. I happen to think that Uri, mentioned the key points. I totally agree in theory. It's just in principle it's hard to agree, because in reality, Iran is like utterly untrustworthy. The Ayatollahs have shown themselves to be to actually believe the words they say and to really be ideologically strong. They're willing to kill tens of thousands of their own people to maintain power, let alone what they're willing to do to us, right? So I think that making deals is nice, but it's not something that I think that any of us can really rely on. And therefore, we need to remember that Israel is the kind of country that is strong, that has a strong military presence in the region, or at least the appearance of a strong military capability in this region, so that we can always make sure that we don't have to rely on deals, and that we can be sure that we're safe no matter what.
So, Malka, if a deal would then be signed and it would, on paper, look like it checks all the boxes, do you believe that it would actually strengthen regional stability, or do you think it actually leaves Israel more exposed, knowing that the likelihood of Iran becoming trustworthy is very small?
I mean, I think that, we could do it old school, the way we do it, like Oslo style, where we kick the can down the road, and maybe we could get a little bit of, quiet for a little while and like do it how we've been doing it for like the last few decades. For me personally, and I think I can actually speak for a lot of people in this region, the Ayatollahs have to go away. There has to be a fresh wind that blows through this region and through Iran. The people of Israel are watching very closely what's happening in Iran, and I know that so many people's hearts are with the people of Iran and wanting freedom for those people from the horrible tyranny and oppression there, which obviously affects them greatly, but certainly affects us all around the region and really around the world.
And moving back to you, Uri, and piggybacking on what Malka is saying, I want to focus for a minute on the Prime Minister, on Netanyahu's actual influence over President Trump. Would you say that Netanyahu has actually shaped this process, or is it looking like he's largely reacting to whatever Washington wants?
I don't think it's a dichotomic answer. It's not black or white. I do think that Netanyahu, and by the way, Israel, for throughout those years, has a weight on American policy towards Iran. By the way, you have also other U.S. allies that have the president's ear, in America's ear, mainly Saudi Arabia, but also Qatar and other places, and Turkey, the new threat, I would say, the new regional threat that's emerging. So I do think that Netanyahu and Trump also have good personal relations. I would not attribute everything to that. I do think that Trump, his main idea is make America great again, right? He does look at everything from an American perspective. I do think that it's in American interest to get rid of the Ayatollah regime, as Malka mentioned. Definitely Israeli perspective and also cooperation, whether it is intelligence or if it will come to military attack on Iran, might be also military collaboration like we had.
But the question really, Uri, the question really is, do you think that Trump is calling the shots here? Or do you think that Netanyahu is actually having some influence on what's going on?
I think that Trump is calling the shots, and I do think that Netanyahu has some influence. As I said at the beginning, it's not contradictory.
So staying with Trump just for a minute, he keeps openly pushing for a pardon for Netanyahu. Do you think an American president should be intervening in Israel's internal legal matters? And is that strategic support inappropriate, interference, or maybe something in between? Uri, take that one.
Yeah, I think it's outrageous. I don't think a foreign leader can intervene in such a blunt way into internal legal affairs, and specifically such divisive ones that are far from consensus here in Israel. But in any case, I do think that Netanyahu himself should it been anyone else or anything close to that does not concern him, he would cry out that we're losing our independence. This is something that shouldn't be done, cannot be done. It's a very dangerous precedent. Of course, President Trump is known for his very blunt, I would say, political behavior, both internationally and domestically in the United States. But that cannot be the threshold to Israeli-American relations. And I think everybody should condemn this attempt.
So do you think that President Herzog therefore responded correctly, or should he have drawn even clearer boundaries?
I do think he should have drawn even stricter boundaries. Again, even Trump appreciates, somebody that stands, somebody or nations that stand for their national pride and independence. And I think he can afford it because he's right.
So the country in general, though, does feel quite divided over the current government. Many Israelis believe that Netanyahu should actually step down, and especially now that the war is more or less stabilized, at least for the time being. When elections take place in October, Malka, what do you realistically see happening? Who should win, and do you believe Israel is better served perhaps by a new leadership?
So I think that, I am in favor of accountability for the things that happen in Israel, regardless of who does them. And I think that it's good to shed light on things, and I'm in favor of transparency in general. I think that in terms of elections, the people will decide as best as they possibly can within the structure that we've built ourselves in this coalition government system. I think that the country has lurched toward the right over the last 2 years. After October 7th, I think that a lot of people in Israel have come to some serious realizations about what they think are our standards for security, and what kind of country they want Israel to be in this region, and there's generally a move toward understanding what our identity is, what it is to be an Israeli, and what our values are. And I think that you're going to see a lot more of that values-based voting.
Ori, do you agree with that as the community in Israel lurched to the right, and what kind of government do you see forming?
First of all, I don't think that the political division right now in Israel is right and left. I think it is, in the current coalition, for instance, you have two, or you can even say three parties that are not part of the right when you think about, the question of Judea and Samaria and other issues. And these are the Haredi parties. And on the other hand, in the opposition, you have parties either that actually now serve in parliament or are on the lines waiting for the election, such as the Naftali Bennett himself, who's former, head of the Judea and Samaria Council, and Avigdor Lieberman, who's very hawkish, and he's a settler himself, as part of the opposition. I think the divisive line in Israeli politics right now it was before October 7th, and it's much more clearer now. It's between those who stand for, maintaining Israel as a law-abiding country, as a country of that runs on professionalism, that does its utmost to serve its citizens, rather than corruption, mess, expanding the government into sizes that are not that does not make any sense, and so on and so forth.
So Ori, let me ask you this.
And by the way, if you put it, if I just put it in name, it's whether it is a referendum also on Netanyahu himself. And Netanyahu, in post-October 7th, that would not take the responsibility for, the accountability that Malka mentioned, for instance, who is supporting the ultra-Orthodox of not being drafted. I think that's the dividing line in Israeli politics right now.
Well, and you touched on something very sensitive, the Haredi draft bill. And just yesterday, we saw an attack against female soldiers in Bnei Brak that shook many people. A group of ultra-Orthodox men chasing these young girls in the streets. At the same time, large segments of the Haredi community are continuing to resist the army service. Do you think that the episode that we saw yesterday is indicative of a broader lack of unity in the country? Do you feel that there is an even deeper divide in the country today after we thought we were sort of getting some semblance of unity after October 7th? Uri, why don't you take that?
I think it's unbelievable. Maybe our viewers should know this. We are talking about population that right now, first graders, out of the Jewish population, 30% of first graders right now in Israel are Haredi, are ultra-Orthodox. And all of them right now, according to the situation since the beginning of the 1980s, are exempt from service, while any other men and many women also in Israel have compulsory service. This was distorted to begin with. It's outrageous after October 7th, and the fact that we saw that technology cannot replace, the human factor in defending our borders and our communities. And add to that the Haredi men are also, in a sense, not allowed to work in Israel because they are not serving, and thus getting government allowances. Also the Israeli market is losing. Plus, they don't study basic professions in school, like English, math, science. So they cannot contribute to the Israeli economy that is based on high tech, as you probably know. This whole distorted situation must stop, and the fact that this chaos that we saw in Bnei Brak, which is part of the chaos, the altogether chaos under this government that doesn't control the streets anymore, and has no influence and gives special treatment to its coalition partners. This cannot continue.
So I want to move on for a minute, Uri. Uri, I want to go ahead. I understand that. And, there's another community that's also a threat to Israel right now. We talk about the Haredi community. We talk about the Arab community. And, Malka, I want you to help me to address the sharp rise that we're seeing in violence in the Arab sector. The numbers of people this year that have already been killed in the Arab sector is much higher than previous year at this time. And at a conference just this week, Dr. Gilad Bodenheimer argued the surge in violence cannot be separated from the broader stress of the war and the strain that the country is facing. Dr. Bodenheimer is head of mental health at the health ministry. Now, in contrast, I had an interview with Ayman Oda, the MK, who told me last week that he blames National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and accuses the government of failing to crack down effectively on organized crime. So, Malka, I ask you, what is driving the spike in Arab-on-Arab crime, and what do you think are the steps that need to be taken? Is it the government that's failing the Arabs, or is this something internal in their population?
So I want to answer that question, but I first want to go back to the Haredi question just for a second.
Okay.
Because I think it's important to have a second perspective here. I personally, while I agree that there is an issue with the fact that Haredim are not serving in some kind of a national service, this is unfair to the rest of the Israeli population that is serving, and you can't really get benefits in a country and not be willing to serve also in the country like everybody else. That being said, we have to understand that the Haredim have a big problem with the army, not because they don't have unity with the state of Israel, but because they're very concerned with the IDF ideology and influence. They're worried not about an ideology which is about security or destroying our enemies. They're much more worried about which they totally stand for, and the overwhelming majority of the Haredi public is extremely right-wing when it comes to security. Their concern is not the secular army, but rather the secularizing army. They are concerned that their sons and daughters will go into the army and face major pushback to their upbringing, to their religious beliefs. And so that is like a general discussion that needs to be had. Hang on, Uri. The second question that you asked, Mayan, was about Ayman Oda and Itamar Ben-Gvir and what's going on in the Arab public. I'm not going to say that I think that we shouldn't try to bring security to all swaths of Israeli society. It's the job of a state to enforce law and to make sure that the law is upheld in a place. That being said, as far as Ayman Odeh is concerned, Itamar Ben-Gvir is in a catch-22. If he doesn't crack down on violence in the Arab sector, then he's leaving everything feral and wild, and he's doing a bad job, and he's racist. If he cracks down on crime in the Arab sector, then he's a racist who cracks down on Arabs and is harsh on their societies. So I think that while I agree in principle that needs to happen and that we need to ensure safety and security on our streets, because that's what police are for, on the other hand, I recognize that Ayman Odeh is not just like an innocent official who's trying to make sure that everybody's okay. He is trying to fight the right wing and Itamar Ben-Gvir with this request for security.
Ori, can you respond to that?
Very easy to fight. Sure, it's very easy to fight. Listen, we are talking now about two populations in where you don't have any sovereignty of the state. I mean, you talk about Haredis, who, as you mentioned what happened with those two soldiers, and it's part of them, not following the building rules and the COVID rules and so on and so forth. Both and also in the Arab sector where the organized crime is flourishing, you cannot look at populations according to their ethnicity or their religious belief or their political power or lack of power. Like the Arabs don't have a lot of political power. It's about a state enforcing law. This is something that can be done. And by the way, Itamar Ben-Gvir doesn't have to crack down. I don't think Itamar Ben-Gvir is qualified to be the minister responsible for the police, being himself someone who was indicted for crimes, a criminal. But having said that, the police has to deal with crime, not necessarily by cracking down in violence. That sometimes has to be done too. But the previous government, the Bennett-Lapid government, lowered the rate of murders in numbers that are 40% less than the years of Itamar Ben-Gvir. It did so by working with the community, by working with the leadership, by doing in-depth work, something that Itamar Ben-Gvir, who's addicted to TikTok, just can't do.
Okay, so I'm going to stop
you.
you.
Welcome in the communities to work with them? You think that would work out?
Yes, I do. I actually do this work myself in Arab communities, working on personal security. I think that they have unprecedented opening for some of the Arab local leaders are even calling for the Shin Bet, which is for them it's unheard of to get into the crime scene in the Arab communities. For them the Shin Bet is always very threatening, but they themselves are calling for that interference because the people are dying in the streets, and whoever thinks that when Arabs kill Arabs, it would not be, at the end of the day, influencing all of Israel. This mere thought is racist. But put that aside, it's someone who thinks so doesn't understand how crime works.
So I
like what you're saying, actually, Ori, because what it says to me is that the Arab society here in this region is looking to Israel for leadership and to Israel to take charge in this area and help to bring security and structure to this region. I'm very encouraged by that.
And I have to stop you both, unfortunately, because we are out of time. Ori, I'm going to have to ask you not to respond because, unfortunately, we are out of time today. But obviously, this discussion is one that is heated and we could have gone on for much longer. Should have asked these questions first. But I really want to thank you, Ori and Malka, for joining us today and for being here on the show. I'm Ayan Hoffman. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Ari, thank you so much for being here. Please tell me, what are you doing here?
Well, thank you for having me. We're here to celebrate Israel and America and to be part of this great community.
Amazing. So please tell me a little bit about Yeshiva University. What do you do?
We are the flagship Jewish university. We have thousands of students. We are actively promoting Israel. We're the only university in the country that flies the Israeli flag 365 days a year.
Wow.
Singing Hatikva at every event.
Wow.
That is what Yeshiva University does.
And I want to talk with you, first of all, about the rise of anti-Semitism. How do you feel about it right now?
Well, I feel that we have an opportunity, and that if attention is being paid to Jews, we're going to show them what Jews stand for, and that are true values that are a blessing to the world. That's what Yeshiva University is for our students, our undergraduate, our graduate students. That's what we educate them. They go out and are blessings to the world.
And what are we going to do with Mamdani?
We are going to show them what we stand for.
Wow. You're not afraid?
We're not. We are not. You know, if there's anti-Zionists in the world that are promoting terrible lies about Israel, we need to stand for the truth.
Of
And
course.
I believe that if Yeshiva University is in New York City, there was not a moment than now that we were created. This is our moment. This is our time to stand up and fight for Israel and show what the Torah is about and what the Jewish people are about.
You're not afraid?
We are not. We are not
Your
afraid.
students?
No, thank God. They're doing really well.
Oh my God, it's
Yeah.
it's absolutely amazing. Now, how was it after October 7th?
October 7th was an important rallying moment. You know, every student of Yeshiva University was deeply affected. I myself, my son, he's fought over 300 days in Givati. 3 of my sons are Bogrei Tzal. My daughter, Sherut Lumi. We made Aliyah 17 years ago.
Wow.
I'm the first American-Israeli president of Yeshiva University, and this was obviously very personal and deeply real for all of us. And we responded. We've been praying and actively working for the hostages since the moment that it happened. I had the opportunity to deliver the benediction at President Trump's inauguration, where I was able to front and center praying for Israel and the return of the hostages. I'll tell you one brief moment. At that time, while everybody's head was down, I looked at the president, and the president and I looked at each other, and he nodded to me and signaled that he's got the hostages. I was the first speaker after him. It wasn't just from day one, it was from moment one.
Wow.
That the president knew that he was going to make sure the hostages were returned, and President Trump delivered.
Thank God we have President Trump.
I don't think there's a question about that for Israel, for the Jewish people fighting anti-Semitism, the President Trump has been such a positive force for us.
You gave an award to Elise Stefani.
Yes.
Can you please tell me about it a little bit?
Absolutely. Look, part of our mission is to gather the heroes. He said that the Jewish people, Yeshiva University, are blessings to the world. We want to find our partners. So for graduation, we have promoted those heroes in America that have stood for Israel and the Jewish people and true American values. So the year before, we had Senator John Fetterman,
Right.
who was incredible,
He's amazing.
standing up, amazing. And last year,
Who's going to be next year?
we actually have a great.
I have a few names for you.
We have a great person for next year, but I
Who?
can't announce it
No,
yet.
give us
I
the
can't announce
scoop.
it yet. We have a great.
Can I guess? I have 3 names.
I don't know. I won't. But I'm curious what your names are. But I won't
Okay.
tell you. I won't tell you.
Okay. But don't smile.
Okay.
Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, and Tom Cotton. One of them,
Those are 3 good ones. I'm not going to say a word.
it's
I'm not gonna
Lindsey.
say-
I
I'm
saw
not
it.
going to say. Lindsey actually greeted me. I spoke at the Senate this year.
And
Lindsey spoke to introduce me and greeted me. He's he's a good man. But I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything. There's no comment.
maybe invite the president.
Listen, I have no comment right now. No, really.
I have a great scoop here.
I have no comment right now.
No, I'm joking.
But,
what is your
yes.
next goal?
We are building our graduate schools for excellence. So we've actually doubled in size from in our graduate students, which are not just Jewish students, but they come from all countries and all over the world. So they have an opportunity to study in a Zionist university. So let me tell you, we had a
Where
group,
can I sign in?
It's amazing, and they're enormously successful as professionals. So recently we had this group from South Korea. They came to yeshiva, they wrote me a note, they said, "Dear President Berman, we love yeshiva, we stand with Israel." That's what's happening. All these students from all countries and all cultures, they come and they see what a blessing the Jewish people are. We welcome them into our home and our hearts, and that's what we're promoting. So we're continuing that, growing our graduate schools. We're just starting an engineering program, which is going to be amazing. We've opened up a new college of science and health. We've really been expanding enormously, and we're seeing great interest from students, from faculty, from donors. People want to support today the flagship Jewish university.
Okay, so usually I ask from people to send a message, mainly to the Jewish people.
Yeah.
But now I want to ask you, what message would you like to send? Maybe to Mamdani or President Trump. You can decide, but who do you want to send a
President Trump, it's thank you. To Mayor Mamdani, it's we will always stand for Israel and for the values that we hold dear. And he should know that we've been here for over 100 years in New York, and we are confident that we will continue to grow and expand and stand strong.
Do you understand Hebrew?
אני עליתי
So,
לפני 17
okay,
שנה, אני
so
בוגר של
I'll
האוניברסיטה
say
העברית.
the sentence of Tal Brody. You
Yes.
remember?
כן,
אנחנו כאן, ואנחנו על המפה, ואנחנו נישאר על המפה.
absolutely.
Thank you so much
Thank you.
for this
Thank you for
interview.
having
Thank
me.
you for your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome back to ILTV on the Hour. I'm Kalev Ben David, coming to you live from Israel, bringing you all the biggest headlines from across the region. Here's the latest developments. A U.S. official says Iran has agreed to present a detailed proposal within the next 2 weeks as talks continue over Tehran's nuclear program. Following a second round of negotiations in Geneva, the official said progress was made, but many details remain unresolved. According to the official, Iranian representatives told the U.S. side they would return with specific proposals to close gaps between the two positions. Early in the day, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and Omani mediators expressed optimism about the direction of the talks.
A new window of opportunity has opened, under which we had the second round of the negotiations with the United States earlier today here in Geneva. We are hopeful that negotiation will lead to a sustainable and negotiated solution which can serve the interest of relevant parties and the broader region. At the same time, as demonstrated during the aggression of 13 June 2025, Iran remains fully prepared to defend itself against any threat or act of aggression. The consequences of any attack against Iran will not be confined to.
But U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said all options still remain on the table.
I think the president has a lot of options. We do have a very powerful military. The president's shown a willingness to use it. He also has a remarkable diplomatic team. He's shown a willingness to use that too. And so what the president has been very clear with the Iranians, and actually I just talked to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner this morning about some of their negotiations, is the United States has certain red lines. Our primary interest here is we don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. We don't want nuclear proliferation.
Meanwhile, the U.S. military buildup in the region continues, with an American official telling reporters 50 more fighter jets were recently deployed to the Middle East. And Iran's Fars news agency reported that the Iranian and Russian navies will conduct a joint military drill in the Gulf of Oman, the same area where U.S. naval forces have been deployed in recent weeks. And inside Iran, families across the country have been defying heavy security to honor victims of the January protests, as a 40th day memorial in their honor marks a powerful symbol of resistance. Across Iran, mourners gathered at gravesides holding memorials for those killed in the crackdown on July 8th and 9th. This despite warnings from security forces, cemetery closures, and heavy patrols. Families performed traditional rituals, they released doves, and even danced in grief. Videos show crowds chanting "Death to Khamenei" and applauding the slain, with internet disruptions reported in several areas. Now, the victims ranged widely in age, including teenagers and young adults, highlighting the heavy toll on Iran's youth. Meanwhile, the government held its own ceremony attended by senior officials. Analysts say the 40th Day Memorial has become a potent symbol of public defiance, illustrating the deep wounds left by the regime's crackdown and the continuing determination of Iranians to honor those killed. An IDF soldier has been killed in what the military describes as a friendly fire incident in southern Gaza overnight. The fallen soldier is named as Staff Sergeant Ofri Yafeh, 21 years old. He was a fighter in the Paratrooper Brigade's reconnaissance unit from Ha-Yogev. Now, the IDF says he was fatally hit by gunfire by other Israeli forces during operations in the area. The circumstances of the incident are under further investigation. The military has extended its condolences to the family. And that wraps up this update on ILTV. Of course, you continue to follow us on our channel, or of course our WhatsApp channel. You can just scan the QR code is appearing there on your screen. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned. I'm Khaled Ben David.
Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Ladar Gavelazi, and coming up in today's newscast. The second round of talks between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran took place in Geneva. For the first time since 1967, a new settlement on the outskirts of Jerusalem. And after his comments to ILTV, NBA All-Star LeBron James faces backlash over Israel. U.S. and Iranian officials met today in Geneva for a second round of high-stakes talks aimed at curbing Tehran's nuclear program and preventing a wider conflict. The talks come as military pressure builds across the region and after many weeks of escalation between Washington and Tehran. ILTV's India Naftali has the details.
That's right, Lidar. This latest round of talks comes after initial indirect discussions earlier this month, and as pressure continues to build both diplomatically and militarily across the region. U.S. and Iranian officials are meeting today in Geneva for round 2 of negotiations. The goal is to limit Tehran's nuclear program and reduce the risk of a wider conflict. The talks follow an earlier round of indirect discussions held this month in Oman, with Oman continuing to serve as the mediator in today's talks. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is meeting with U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner in Geneva. Araghchi says he has arrived with what he calls practical ideas for a fair deal, but warns that Iran will not submit to threats. Tehran has indicated it may accept limits on its nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief, but continues to insist on its right to enrich uranium. The United States, however, wants the talks to also address Iran's ballistic missile program and its support for armed groups. However, Iran says these issues are not up for negotiation. The diplomatic push comes as the United States builds up its military presence in the region, and Iran runs military drills in the Strait of Hormuz, adding pressure ahead of the talks. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump says he will be involved indirectly in the negotiations. Here's what he told reporters aboard Air Force One.
So I'll be involved in those talks indirectly, and they'll be very important. We'll see what can happen. I mean, it's been typically Iran's a very tough negotiator. They're good negotiators, or bad negotiators. I would say they're bad negotiators because we could have had a deal instead of sending the B-2s in to knock out their nuclear potential, and we had to send the B-2s. I hope they're going to be more reasonable. They want to make a deal.
And meanwhile, visiting U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham said that President Trump will decide between war and a deal with Iran within weeks and not months. Speaking at a press conference in Tel Aviv, he had this to say.
My presence here today is to reassure the Israeli people there is no light or gaps between President Trump and Bibi about what to do and how to do it. There are two lines in the water right now. One's a diplomatic line, trying to find a way to end this regime diplomatically that will advance our national security interest. The other line is the military option. I think President Trump is looking for which line can catch the biggest fish. The bottom line is we're into weeks, not months, in terms of decision making.
And the Islamic Republic of Iran held live military exercises in the Strait of Hormuz and announced it was temporarily shutting down the strait in a rare move. The naval drill, which began yesterday, is an apparent show of force as President Donald Trump threatens military action and even regime change if diplomacy fails. The drills were described by Iranian state media as a response to potential security and military threats. The exercises involve both the regular Iranian Navy and the naval arm of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, including fast attack boats, submarines, drones, and coastal missile batteries. So far, there are no reports of direct incidents with commercial or foreign military vessels, but shipping companies are closely monitoring the situation. Iran has in the past threatened to close the strait in response to sanctions or military pressure, though it has never followed through. The exercises are expected to continue for several days. The timing comes amid a U.S. military buildup in the region, including deploying a second aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford Strike Group. The USS Lincoln Strike Group is already in the region, with the Americans now deployed in the Persian Gulf, Arabian Sea, Red Sea, and the Eastern Mediterranean. With military forces on high alert and diplomacy hanging in the balance, the risk of escalation remains very high. And joining us now with more on the latest in the talks between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran and the threat of war is Dr. Eric Mandel, founder and director of MEPIN. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So the second round of talks coming to a conclusion today, U.S. President Trump saying he will be indirectly involved and expressing optimism that a deal could be reached. What is your assessment of the second round of talks today?
First of all, I think there'll probably be a third round of talks. If this negotiation is only a nuclear deal that would leave Iran with some enrichment and doesn't address weaponization, ballistic missiles, proxies, no matter how this will be spun, it'll be compared to the JCPOA, the Obama deal, which Trump withdrew from and disparaged. And you have to also remember that nuclear is not just about enrichment, and there should be no enrichment. It's also, there's a plutonium pathway. There has to be safeguards that Iran can't import a nuclear weapon from either North Korea or Pakistan. And we have to ask ourselves, are his negotiators aware of Tadiyah, religiously approved deception and lying, which is how the Iranians negotiate? And the president on all of this has to also think about, we're in a midterm election coming up. He has to think about his base. So if I was giving advice to his negotiators, I would say be binary. Don't get sucked into details, because the Iranians brought nuclear experts. IAEA chief Rafael Grossi was there yesterday. Don't get sucked in there. This is a binary choice. Enrichment, no enrichment. No amount is too low. And Iran, we have to remember, claims that it has, according to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, the right to enrich uranium. That's not true. The reason is they've been in non-compliance with the IAEA. They've expelled IAEA inspectors. And the NPT does not guarantee unrestricted right to enrich to any level. It's supposed to be a civilian level. They have gone to 84% at one time. So we cannot be fooled here. The bottom line is this has to be a very clear negotiation. It's got to be, in a way, our way or the highway. And we got to remember who the Iranians are, how they negotiate, and the fact that they committed one of the worst atrocities in the last 70 years killing 40,000 people in just 2 days' time in early January.
So, you mentioned, of course, the massacre of its own people, which is how this all began. We can't forget that tweet, the tweet that President Trump put out, "Help is on the way," urging Iranians to take to the streets. This is what began it all. So how can the president reconcile this tweet with negotiating with the Ayatollahs? I mean, at the cost, of course, of the Iranian people, because this is essentially extending sort of a life branch to this dying regime. So how can Trump reconcile that?
So I think I work with Iran International. I'm interviewed by them, which is the leading opposition group. And they sent me a new article yesterday of a 17-year-old boy, Sam Asafari, who's a protester who was wounded, taken into a hospital, and was executed in the hospital. I think that individual story is representative of this Iranian regime of 150,000 IRGC, a million Basij, who are willing to kill people to keep the regime going. If America abandons the Iranian people, it's a black eye for America. It's a black eye for the president after what he said. And after 40,000 people being killed, if there is no consequence here for mass killing, that is a very bad a way for America to be seen in the world. We are not, even though I know we're expressed as purely transactional, but we must have some value-based foreign policy for us to be respected in the world.
And not just the nuclear issue or, of course, the humanitarian issue, but what about the ballistic missiles? What about the funding of terror proxies throughout the region? Is this on the agenda? Is this on the agenda for a deal?
One of the things that's interesting is we don't know that much. I was in Washington a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking with somebody from the first Trump term, who is one of the foreign policy experts, and he said in this administration, it is a very tight circle of people. There are very few leaks, which means we don't really know what is exactly going on. So we're speculating. And everything you say, whether the president will strike, make a deal, it's speculation. So we have to have that caveat. Regarding ballistic missiles, if ballistic missiles are not here, or they're just going to be a perfunctory issue where the Iranians say, we'll discuss it after we address the nuclear, then that's terrible. The ballistic missiles are an integral part of the nuclear because that's how they deliver their potential nuclear weapons. But Israel is even more worried for the immediate that it is existential because the quantity of ballistic missiles can overwhelm Israel's anti-missile systems. I've been to Israel 10 times since October 7th. I've seen what ballistic missiles can do, and both to a base or to a civilian area, and they target civilian areas. It is devastating. So ballistic missiles, not only a part of the nuclear program, but they in and of themselves are an existential threat to Israel. The assessment at this time is they may be back to what they had at June 2025, which was 2,000 ballistic missiles. They are in ramping up production of the ballistic missiles, including the solid-state fuel, which makes them quicker to shoot and harder to identify. And so this is an issue Israel has to address. One of the things Israel has to get at this point is the ability to strike the ballistic missiles, even if there's a deal. Now, the question is, say there's a deal, and Israel strikes and the president's not happy with it, will CENTCOM and the other players of CENTCOM join in defending Israel if it strikes and the response of ballistic missiles? If Israel has to rely only on its Arrow 2 and 3 and David Sling and other parts of the CENTCOM anti-missile array are not put into place, Israel will be very vulnerable.
Absolutely. So certainly critical days ahead, and we'll, of course, continue to follow. Dr. Eric Mandel, thank you so much for your insights today.
Thank you for having me.
And transitioning to Gaza, representatives of more than 20 countries are beginning to descend on Washington as U.S. President Donald Trump prepares to host the inaugural meeting of the Gaza Board of Peace on Thursday, a summit aimed at advancing reconstruction and post-war security in the Strip. ILTV's Steve Leibovitz has the latest.
About 24 countries are expected to take part in the first meeting of the President Trump-led Board of Peace at the level of heads of state and foreign ministers. Israel will be represented by Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu decided not to attend. The summit is expected to provide a major boost to international reconstruction efforts in Gaza. Officials involved in organizing the meeting say member states are set to announce more than $5 billion in pledges for rebuilding the territory. The initiative is also linked to a broader plan that envisions the disarmament of Hamas and a transition to civilian governance, backed by a proposed international stabilization force. Several countries, including Indonesia, Greece, Italy, and Cyprus, have indicated a willingness to contribute personnel, though full commitments remain unclear. Several key U.S. allies are choosing not to take part in President Trump's Board of Peace, citing concerns over its structure and mandate. The United Kingdom, France, Poland, Norway, Sweden, and Canada have all decided not to join at this stage, with some officials warning the initiative could duplicate or undermine existing United Nations frameworks. Others have raised legal and constitutional questions about formal membership in a body perceived as U.S.-led and outside traditional multilateral channels. The European Union said it will attend the inaugural meeting as an observer only, signaling engagement, but only on the Gaza issue, stopping short of full participation.
So indeed, I can confirm that Commissioner Schwitzer will travel to D.C. Later this week. She will participate in the meeting of the Board of Peace for the specific part dedicated to Gaza. Let me stress that the European Commission is not becoming a member to the Board of Peace.
And Israel is moving forward with plans for a new settlement that would effectively mark the first expansion of Jerusalem since 1967. ILTV's Steve Leibovitz has the story.
A development agreement between the government and the Mate Binyamin Regional Council would see the construction of some 2,780 housing units as a new neighborhood of the Jewish community of Adam, just northeast of Jerusalem. While officially part of Adam, the proposed site is physically separated by Route 437 and the security barrier, and lies much closer to the Jerusalem neighborhood of Neve Yaakov. The project would be built on about 500 dunam of land between the Palestinian towns of Hizma and Al-Ram, with the government investing about 120 million shekels in infrastructure and public facilities. 500 housing units have already been marketed in the first phase. The plan still requires approval from the Civil Administration's Higher Planning Committee, a process that could take up to 2 years. Mate Binyamin Regional Council head Israel Gantz praised the project as the realization of the settlement vision. He said it will provide thousands of new homes, with more such steps expected. The proposal is likely to draw close international scrutiny as it moves through the approval process.
And ILTV is partnering with Regavim to spotlight one of the most critical issues facing Israel today, the protection of our national land and resources. Regavim works on the ground, in the courts, and in the Knesset to expose illegal land seizures, defend the rule of law, and safeguard Israel's heartland, especially in Judea and Samaria. So if you want real data and a deeper understanding of what's happening beyond the headlines, scan the QR code on your screen or visit regavim.org and sign up for their newsletter. Learn how you can play a role in safeguarding the land of Israel. And in other news, the IDF says an Israeli drone strike in the southern Lebanon town of Taluse killed a Hezbollah operative this evening. According to the military, the targeted individual played a key role in restoring Hezbollah's military infrastructure in the area and acted as a local representative of the terror group. He was involved in coordinating between Hezbollah and village residents on both economic and military matters, making him central to the organization's operations in Taluse. The IDF adds that the operative also attempted to seize private property for terror purposes in direct violation of the November 2024 ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. The strike is part of ongoing Israeli efforts to prevent Hezbollah from rebuilding its military capabilities along the northern border. Military sources say Israel will continue to target those who threaten security in the region and underscored that the ceasefire does not provide cover for terror activities. And moving on, the suspect in the deadly Bondi Beach Hanukkah massacre in Sydney has made his first court appearance. 24-year-old Navid Akram appeared Monday by video link from a maximum security prison in Sydney, facing 59 charges related to the December 14th attack during a Jewish Hanukkah event, including 15 counts of murder, 40 counts of intent to murder, and a terrorism offense. The massacre left 15 people dead and dozens injured and involved his father, Sajid Akram, who was killed by police at the scene. In court, Akram spoke briefly, only to acknowledge discussions about a suppression order on victim identities. It was the first time he's been seen or heard since his arrest. His lawyer said it's too early to determine how Akram will plead, as the legal process is just beginning. The case is scheduled to return to court in April, and officials continue investigations into motive and possible further charges. Akram could face life imprisonment, the maximum penalty for the most serious charges against him, including multiple counts of murder and terrorism offenses. Each murder charge carries a possible life sentence, and under Australian law, some terrorism charges also carry life imprisonment. Given the scale of alleged offenses, if convicted, Akram is likely to receive the harshest possible sentence, including life without parole. At U Haifa International, academic excellence isn't just a standard, it's a way of life. With 21 English-taught master's programs, world-class faculty, and Israel's top national score in the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings, students grow in every direction.
If you really want to challenge yourself academically, grow in a very diverse community, and be immersed in such an important and significant environment, University of Haifa is the place for you.
Located on the stunning Carmel Ridge, the U Haifa blends academic excellence with a welcoming community.
U Haifa International has a great combination of top-notch academics with a great community of students.
Whether you're pursuing a one-year master's or diving into research, U Haifa gives you the tools, mentorship, and real-life insight to make your mark on the world. U Haifa International. Master your mind, live your Israel experience. And in other news, a routine anti-looting operation has uncovered an extraordinary glimpse into Jewish life 2,000 years ago. ILTV's Deva Klein has the story.
Inspectors from the Israel Antiquities Authority were monitoring illegal digging on the eastern slope of Mount Scopus when they caught 5 suspects excavating inside a cave. But what they found the next morning stunned even veteran archaeologists. Eitan Klein of the authority's theft prevention unit said, quote, "We were shocked to find more than 100 pieces." The fragments turn out to be stone cups, bowls, and other vessels from the late Second Temple period, when Jewish law held that stone, unlike pottery, could not become ritually impure. That made limestone vessels especially important for pilgrims traveling to Jerusalem to visit the temple before its destruction in 70 CE.
Each of the artifacts you see here behind me actually has a criminal record. It was stolen, seized, or looted from some archaeological site, either in Israel or abroad.
Archaeologists say that the cave served as a workshop along the main eastern road into the city, used by travelers coming from Jericho and the Jordan Valley. Soft local limestone or chalk made the site ideal for carving ritual vessels that were likely sold in Jerusalem. Production waste found inside the cave confirms its function as a factory. The artifacts are now on display at the IIA's National Campus in Jerusalem as part of a new exhibition on antiquities looting and prevention. Officials say the suspects face charges of illegal excavation and damage to antiquities sites, while researchers say the discovery helps piece together daily religious life in Jerusalem's final years before the temple fell.
And in sports news, a clip taken from yesterday's NBA All-Stars game is currently going viral. In the video, NBA legend and 4-time champion LeBron James said he heard great things about Israel and would love to visit. LeBron was asked for his views on Israel by our very own correspondent Libby Alon, who filed a report to us yesterday live from the court. But now her one question has sparked a mass wave of backlash against the Lakers forward. Let's take a look at the clip.
Easily be from Channel 14 in Israel. For all the Israeli fans, what message would you like to send for Israel, and also what do you think about Danny Avdia?
Well, I've been quoted on Danny already, and they asked me what I thought about this season. I said I believe he was an all-star, and I mean he is an all-star. He's playing exceptional basketball. So that's that. And then I mean if I have fans over there, I've never been there. If I have fans over there, then I hope you have been following my career. I hope I inspire people over there to not only want to be great in sports, but I want you to be better in general in life. So hopefully someday I can make it over there. Like I said, I've never been over there, but I've heard nothing but great things, and I appreciate the question.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
LeBron James is currently going viral for his comments on Israel, and the media is crucifying the champion for saying he would like to visit. Our correspondent Libya Lone was courtside for the All-Stars game, but the reaction to LeBron's answer to her question has been nothing shy of a witch hunt. Some are calling LeBron a supporter of genocide, others demanding he should be canceled. But the reaction in Israel was incredibly positive, and now Israeli fans are hoping he follows through and comes to visit the Jewish state.
We would love to see LeBron James here in Israel. And now, let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 12 degrees Celsius or 53 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see partly sunny skies alongside steady temperatures with highs of 17 degrees Celsius or 66 degrees Fahrenheit. The air quality remains poor as Israel deals with the after effects of Saturday's dust storm. And that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels and keep up with us on social media. That's at ILTV_Israel on all platforms. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Ladar Gravelazi. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Good Week Israel, the show where we recap for you some of the positive highlights coming out of Israel from this week. I'm your host, Deval Klein, and coming up on today's show, Israel makes an appearance at this year's Winter Olympics. Get an inside look at this year's Tel Aviv Aliyah Fair. And this hilarious trend that is currently taking over the internet. We are in the midst of the Winter Olympics taking place in Italy, and as most international competitions, Team Israel does not waste an opportunity to take the stage and represent the Jewish state. Let's have a look at Team Israel and last weekend's opening ceremony.
The Milano Cortina Winter Olympics officially opened over the weekend in Italy, and the 9-member Team Israel stepped onto the world stage under a mixed reception. The Israeli delegation marched into Milan's San Siro Stadium waving the blue and white, smiling and holding their heads high as a smattering of boos was heard, quickly drowned out by music and cheers. Flag bearer Maria Sinyuk led the team as Israel's athletes showed calm and confidence despite expected hostility relating to anti-Israel protesters. Israel has sent 9 Olympians to these games. The message from Team Israel: we are here to compete, to represent the nation, and to stay focused on sport. The small but diverse delegation to the Winter Olympics has athletes competing in alpine skiing, figure skating, cross-country skiing, skeleton, and for the first time ever, bobsled with a 5-member crew. Israel is not considered a medal favorite, but one skier who competes regularly on the World Cup circuit is seen as the country's strongest contender for a high finish as Israel continues to expand its footprint in winter sports.
Now, this next story truly gave me a laugh. Have you heard of the Big Yahoo? Well, apparently that is the nickname given to Prime Minister Netanyahu by teens and young adults on social media. The new viral trend is to use Netanyahu as a sort of savior when you're in a situation you don't really feel like being in. Take a look at some of these examples.
Benjamin Netanyahu! I'm 40 miles away from the supercharger! Please, Mr. Netanyahu, help me! Netanyahu! Save me! Save me! Benjamin Netanyahu! Beat this card up! And my leg is yours! Netanyahu! Save us! Netanyahu! Benjamin Netanyahu, turn it green for the great state of Israel!
Benjamin Netanyahu! If you could please remove the check engine light from my vehicle, I will pledge my allegiance to the great state of Israel!
Benjamin Netanyahu, if you can hear this, please, Benjamin Netanyahu, blow up the kid in Walmart that laughed at me, please.
Okay, here's the deal. In general, the underlying tones, they are negative. But whether it's positive or negative, the truth is it's humorous. People are finally having a laugh at something that has to do with Israel. And honestly, it feels like a breath of fresh air considering that Israel was previously a taboo subject, especially when it comes to Israel rhetoric that we see online. Yes, the ideas insinuated are negative, but from a humorous perspective, it's nice to see the public coming around to Netanyahu, who in reality is a real softie.
מה אתה עושה פה? קיבלתם בייביסיטר? קיבלתם בייביסיטר. איפה הילדים?
And from Prime Minister to President, Herzog spent the last week in Australia. And yes, there were a lot of protests, but here on Good Week Israel, we focus on the good, giving strength to a community in mourning, inspiring for unity, and celebrating Jewish life. That is what came out of Herzog's trip to pay his final respects to the Bondi Beach terror attack victims. Have a look.
These stones from Jerusalem, the eternal city, the eternal capital of Israel, will remain here at Bondi for eternity in sacred memory of the victims and as a reminder that the bonds between good people of all faiths and all nations will continue to hold strong in the face of terror.
Paying his respects to the victims of the Bondi Beach massacre during a Hanukkah celebration, President Herzog joined the Jewish community in a touching ceremony. The president laid a wreath with a sash reading, quote, "The President of the State of Israel," and sang a prayer together with community members. Speaking to community members, Herzog reaffirmed Israel's shared values with Australia, claiming that this attack didn't just target the Jews of Australia, but the very values of Western democracies.
Yet, this was also an attack on all Australians. They attacked the values that our democracies treasure: the sanctity of human life, the freedom of religion, tolerance, dignity, and respect. Because we are two democracies that share values together, and we are confronting the roots of evil from all over the world.
And yet, as the president spoke of his shared fight against evil, pro-Palestinian crowds flooded the streets to protest the arrival of the Israeli president. Instead of lamenting the worst attack to happen on Australian soil in decades, Sydney's masses protested the visit. Despite major security being deployed to protect the safety of the president, scuffles erupted between police and protesters. Arrests were made and injuries were reported after the president came to visit and pay his final respects.
And now, are you looking into Israeli real estate? Well, you definitely do not want to be doing it wrong. That I can guarantee. But lucky for you, ILTV had Aliyah IL CEO Eliyahu Kleinman right here in our studio to break down this process. Have a look.
Today, we're joined by Eliyahu Kleinman, who works closely with overseas buyers navigating the Israeli real estate market. With so many foreigners investing from abroad, we wanted to talk about the most common mistakes that buyers make, and just as importantly, the opportunities that exist in the Israeli market right now. Eliyahu, thank you so much for joining us today. Pleasure to have you here again. You work with many international buyers. From your experience, what are the most common mistakes that foreigners make when buying property here in Israel?
So basically, there are two main mistakes that we see the clients are doing. First of all, they're assuming that Israel is another star at the American flag, and they think that the Israeli real estate market is like, you know, like America or any other place in the world. So when you start assuming things in life and you don't really understand how the process works, how the market works, speaking with the professionals like an attorneys who specialize working with the international clients, realtors as us, mortgage brokers, and so first of all, that's the #1 mistake, because we're here to protect you as a buyer. And the second thing, that when people look in a deal, look at the price, and they don't look in the big picture. Or what are my guarantees? Who is the builder? And there are so many things that need to be discussed, that it's not only about the price. You need to see the big picture, that eventually what you're buying is what you're going to get. So I think those are the main two things that really to protect the buyer and avoiding making mistakes.
Now, how important is planning? I mean, anytime you're buying a property, you need to plan in advance, but how important is that for an overseas buyer?
First of all, ask yourself, why do I want to buy? Why did I left my contact information about the purchasing in Israel? Once you understand the why, planning your budget, planning if you want to make aliyah, don't make aliyah, but plan your timeline, and really understanding the full picture, as I said before making any decision.
Now, right now in the Israeli market, there are a lot of opportunities. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening here in Israel, opportunities that may exist for foreign purchasers?
So let's not forget that we are after 2 years, almost 3 years of war, hostages, high interest. Now it's a buyer's market. And so people ask, okay, what does it mean to be in a buyer's market? So there are main three things. The first one is price. You can get a better price to be negotiated with the seller. Second are the terms. If it's the terms of the deal, the payment plan, index, upgrades in the apartments. And the third thing is that when you come to purchase something, you're not in a rush that the apartment will be taken tomorrow. You have the time actually to choose the apartment, to choose the property that will be good for you, because there are days when it's a seller's market, and it happens a lot, that a client is overseas, it comes the next day, and it says, look, the apartment, either the price went up or the apartment is sold. So definitely today it's a buyer's market. We don't know for how long it's going to stay, but now we feel after the war, hostages are back, we feel the prosperity. And I really believe that if someone wants to purchase an apartment in Israel, that's a very good timing for him now. And that's why we're here, to give you the best service and the best deal that suits you as a buyer.
Sounds like it's actually a really good time to enter the Israeli real estate market. But I do want to ask you, before I let you go, if there's someone watching who is interested in purchasing property here in Israel, what advice would you have for them?
Speak with professionals, do your homework, build your team to make this process. It's not an easy process, but if you work with the right professionals and you communicate with them, we're here to make it much smoother and enjoyable.
And you're here to streamline, you guys work to streamline all of those things that you mentioned, the common pitfalls, not working with the professionals, and the different obstacles that may come up in purchasing a property, right?
As I said, it's about communication and culture and understanding. Once you try to, not going by the book, so eventually, we heard a lot of people saying, look, I purchased an apartment in Israel, but it's not what I've been told. Because when you try to do things not in the right way, there will be surprises. As I said, it's not like buying abroad. But
nonetheless, a good time to buy, right?
It is a good time to buy, because smart investors and smart buyers know when everyone is quiet and when it's a buyer's market, that's the time to buy. Because when prices are going up and it's a seller's market and everything, is there, so you're going to get less for your money, or you're going to be your position is weaker.
All right. Well, thank you so much for for joining us today. Sorry to cut you off there. Eliyahu, you can learn more about buying property and working with Eliyahu here with his professional consultation to make sure that your investment is planned, protected, and of course strategic from day one. Feel free to scan the QR code to get it.
And speaking of new immigrants, what better city to make Aliyah than the cultural hub of Israel, that is Tel Aviv? Have a look at Nefesh B'Nefesh Aliyah Fair in Tel Aviv, bringing together new Olim from all backgrounds to network under one roof. Let's see. Tel Aviv is a city known for its dynamic rhythm, diversity, and wide range of opportunities. But for new immigrants who come to start fresh, integrating into the city's fast-paced lifestyle can be a challenge. This is where Nefesh B'Nefesh comes to help. On January 28th, Nefesh B'Nefesh welcomed over 300 Olim to its Tel Aviv center in partnership with the Jewish National Fund USA in the Azrieli Tower for the event Meet Tel Aviv, a community fair for Olim in Tel Aviv. For one evening, their center became a vibrant, welcoming meeting place where newcomers were given the opportunity to exchange stories, ask questions, and connect with organizations offering support in every stage of integration.
Tonight we have the Meet Tel Aviv, a community fair for Olim living in Tel Aviv. We have over 20 organizations represented here tonight. We have synagogues, we have sports organizations, we have the Ministry of Aliyah and Integration, we have the Tel Aviv Municipality. Everyone is here with the goal of helping Olim find their people, find ways to meet other people, find activities and things to do so they can really stay in Israel and find their footing.
Tel Aviv remains to be one of the most popular destinations for Olim from North America. Nefesh B'Nefesh, together with the Ministry of Aliyah and Integration, the Jewish Agency for Israel, Karen Kayemet L'Israel, and Jewish National Fund USA, continues to strengthen the networks that help new immigrants transform a new city into a home.
Nefesh acts as this amazing hub, not just for Anglos, but for even locals here who want to get involved with the Olim and immigrant community. So these type of evenings and organizations are really, really important to not just the vitality of Israel, but the vitality of the immigrant community as a whole.
Events like the Meet Tel Aviv serve as a bridge for newcomers, giving them the opportunity to connect with other Olim who have the same struggles, gain access to essential services, and develop the social and professional networks necessary for a seamless transition.
Our mission is to help women that came from all over the world to Israel, Zionists, to integrate into Israel, to make business connections, to get new jobs, to meet friends, to just have a wonderful life in Israel.
The past years have brought a steady increase in North American Aliyah to the city, which highlights the importance of gatherings like this community fair. As these numbers keep rising, events like this play a key role in helping newcomers navigate their transition and build lasting connections in Israel.
I came here looking for community, and it's incredible how many resources there are for Olim who are looking to find that community. I've been really fortunate to kind of build my own community through just random opportunities there are throughout Tel Aviv, and organizations and events like this is just one of the many ways to be able to connect with people.
Well, if it's studying, actually, that you're looking for in Israel, you have to check out U Haifa and what their international program has to offer.
At U Haifa International, academic excellence isn't just a standard, it's a way of life. With 21 English-taught master's programs, world-class faculty, and Israel's top national score in the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings, students grow in every direction.
If you really want to challenge yourself academically, grow in a very diverse community, and be immersed in such an important and significant environment, University of Haifa is the place for you.
Located on the stunning Carmel Ridge, the U Haifa blends academic excellence with a welcoming community.
U Haifa International has a great combination of top-notch academics with a great community of students.
Whether you're pursuing a one-year master's or diving into research, U Haifa gives you the tools, mentorship, and real-life insight to make your mark on the world. U Haifa International. Master your mind, live your Israel experience.
And now let's have a look at what the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews was up to this week.
Shalom, my friends from here in Israel. I'm Yael Eckstein, and here are 2 fellowship projects that you should know about this week. Number 1, we have hundreds of food programs across Israel, and one very special one is a partnership with Leket. In this project, we save fruits and vegetables from the fields of Israel that would otherwise be thrown out, and we distribute it to the poor and needy across Israel. Recently, we had a distribution spot in the most northern Israel city of Kiryat Shmona and in a central Israel city of Netanya. We had over 400 people come to pick up fruits and vegetables, elderly Holocaust survivors, people who have been affected by war. What this means is that everyone asked me to thank you for making this possible. And number 2, although Passover is still months away, at the fellowship we began preparing to provide matzah to the Jewish people in the former Soviet Union. And so here in Israel, in a matzah factory in Bnei Brak, we already began preparing this unleavened bread that we are going to bring into the former Soviet Union, distribute it to Jews in need, and because of that, they will have a happy Passover where they're able to celebrate. Well, there you have it, friends. There are 2 fellowship projects that you now know about. Join me next week, same place, same time, for more updates of what's happening on the ground at the fellowship. Shalom.
And to wrap up Good Week for today, have a look at this exclusive look into Israel's Lahav 443 police unit. Now, without any spoilers, ILTV's India Naftali takes it away.
Now, an ILTV exclusive, Israeli authorities are warning about a growing number of cases involving Israelis recruited online to work for enemy actors. Authorities say since October 7th, Iranian handlers and other hostile groups, including Hezbollah and Hamas, have increased their efforts to approach Israelis through social media, job offers, and fake relationships. ILTV's India Naftali sat down with the investigators working these cases.
That's right, Lidar. There is a growing trend of Israelis spying for Iran and other enemy states. I sat down with Lahav 433, the police unit often described as the Israeli FBI, to understand how these cases begin, how Israelis are recruited by foreign enemies, and what would motivate someone to betray their own country.
Since October 7th, Israeli investigators say Iran and its proxies have dramatically increased attempts to recruit Israelis, often through social media platforms like Telegram, Instagram, Facebook, or even adult websites. Contact usually begins innocently, a job offer, a friendly message, sometimes even a romantic conversation. But authorities say what starts online can quickly turn into espionage and in some cases escalate into planned acts of terror.
So at first it will be go to the supermarket, I want to see product prices, and then tell me what are the prices, take a picture of it. The other one will be take a picture of your ID, I need to know who are you. Open crypto account so I can give you money for what you're doing. And then go to some hospital next to your house. Take a picture of the interest. Tell me how many guards you have there. And it's getting worse and getting worse.
Investigators say that money is the primary motivator. Payments often start at a few hundred shekels and can climb into the tens or even hundreds of thousands. Authorities stress no amount of money is worth betraying your country.
Once we know that there's a person that worked for some enemy, we start to collect evidence about him, and at the right time, we arrest him and doing search at his home, collecting different evidence that can help us at the continuing investigation.
Under Israeli law, spying for an enemy during wartime carries a minimum sentence of 15 years in prison and can lead to life behind bars. Now, what may surprise many is who is being caught. Suspects range from teenagers to older adults, both Jewish and non-Jewish, religious and secular. Some are recent immigrants, while others were born and raised in Israel. But what we do see is that most of the recruitment cases are linked to Iran, but Hezbollah and Hamas are also involved in recruitment. They're all seeking intelligence for future attacks inside Israel. In several cases, police say they intervened just in time.
We prevent persons in different cases right before, they were on the way to hurt somebody or to take a bomb.
Every case also builds a clear picture of how Iranian handlers operate, making future recruitment attempts easier to identify and stop.
If you will have any message from somebody and you see that it's really, really suspicious, like for example, you can't see him, you can't talk with him, he asks you to do things that not make sense for the job offers at first. Maybe to go out and take a picture of places, different places, and it's not make sense. Stop these relationships.
Committing acts of espionage is no small thing. Authorities say even seemingly minor actions can put lives across the country at risk. And while most of these cases never make headlines, investigators say the real impact is measured in what never happens. This includes lives saved before anyone even knows they were at risk. Lidar?
And that's a wrap for today's Good Week Israel. I hope we've helped to deliver some positive news that you get to now take with you into this week ahead. As always, I'm Deborah Klein. Take care, and thank you so much for watching.
So I'm Maya, the Executive Director of Talk Israel Foundation.
And what are you doing here?
So we empower young content creators to post more positive content about Israel online in a very positive, authentic, non-political way. We work with different teens, students, and young professionals and really help them elevate their own social media brand and to become better creators. Really.
How did you get started?
So I moved to the US in 2019 for a shlichut with a Jewish agency.
Wow.
Was supposed to come here for a year. Then COVID hit and they asked me to stay. I ended up doing shlichut for 4 years. And
oh my God.
I know, I was surprised as well. I was also just 25 and my entire family is in Israel. So I was just navigating between life and journey and just everything. And then I was actually supposed to go back to Israel to start working for Misrad Hasbara Leumi.
Wow.
And got a few job offers here. And when I heard about Talk Israel Academy, I realized that it's so amazing and the mission is so relevant. So I decided to take the job, and I'm very proud of our students and creators and just everyone in the space.
What's your mission?
So we really try to help as many students, teens, young professionals, as possible to really create content that highlights all the beautiful things that Israel has to offer.
Wow.
So we talk about Israeli culture, sports, food, music, fashion, really try to show that Israel is not black and white. There is so much more to offer behind the war, behind the conflict. And unfortunately today when you search about Israel online, most of the content you're going to find is very political. You're going to see some negative content, you're going to see maps, soldiers on TikTok, on Instagram, and we want to show that yes, there's war going on, but there's also other stuff that is super relevant and important as well. So we have like 250 creators who are producing content on a weekly basis. We trained more than 5,000 creators, college campuses, really help them, navigate between their career and their school and just everything about it.
It started after October 7th?
So we started before, but we definitely understand the importance after October 7th.
What kind of comments do you get after October 7th?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, since the content is very positive and we're not posting any political content, so most of the comments are very supportive. And this is something that is really important for me to mention. Everything is research-based. So we actually test the content with non-Jewish and non-Israeli participants because we want to make sure that the content we're going to post and the content the creator is going to post will actually change their minds. Mm-hmm. So I was super surprised to see that, after seeing our content, 86% mentioned that they would love to visit Israel one day, and they have, very positive feeling about Israel. Because they understand that there is real people and just humans and, so many similarities, and they can feel relate to some of the creators. So,
What kind of challenges do you face?
So, that's the reality, but and it is what it is. But there's so many things going on every day. War, operations, it's very dynamic, and it's not always very easy to stay positive and authentic, especially because people want to understand what's going on. But we really see and we really teach the creators to, keep posting, stay true to their values, be authentic, and it helps. The community helps a lot. They support each other. They create content together.
It's an
they film
amazing
together.
project.
Thank you so much. I
What
really
message
appreciate
would you
that.
like to send to the Israeli people?
To the Israeli people, first of all, I love you. I'm Israeli as well, so I feel very connected. But I think, and especially, in this conference, you see how much love and hope and support and unity, and how we're honestly the best. So just keep, being united, be
Am Israel
positive.
Chai.
Am Israel Chai, 100%. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you.
ILTV News, your source for Israel in English. Reporting from the ground where it happens, as it happens. An authentic, trusted voice in daily Israel news. Airing on 11 international TV channels, and now launching a 24/7 Israeli news channel. Reaching millions every month across all social platforms. Independent, real, powered by truth. We don't just report, we connect. Thanks to a worldwide community that stands for truth. This is ILTV, your source for Israel in English.
Welcome back to ILTV on the Hour. I'm Kalev Ben David, coming to you live from Israel, bringing you all the biggest headlines from across the region. Here are the latest developments. U.S. and Israeli security sources are saying that the negotiations with Iran are faltering, and an American strike against the Tehran regime could be imminent, even within the coming days. A White House source told Axios that chances of a U.S. strike against Iran have risen to 90%. And the operation would be stronger and longer than many anticipate. This is despite the fact that following a second round of negotiations in Geneva, a U.S. official said progress was made, but many details remain unresolved. According to the official, Iranian representatives told the U.S. side they would return with specific proposals to close gaps between the two positions. And earlier in the day, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi expressed optimism about the direction of the talks.
A new window of opportunity has opened, under which we had the second round of the negotiations with the United States earlier today here in Geneva. We are hopeful that negotiation will lead to a sustainable and negotiated solution which can serve the interest of relevant parties and the broader region. At the same time, as demonstrated during the aggression of 13 June 2025, Iran remains fully prepared to defend itself against any threat or act of aggression. The consequences of any attack against Iran will not be confined to its borders.
But U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said all options still remain on the table.
I think the president has a lot of options. We do have a very powerful military. The president's shown a willingness to use it. He also has a remarkable diplomatic team. He's shown a willingness to use that too. And so what the president has been very clear with the Iranians, and actually I just talked to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner this morning about some of their negotiations, is the United States has certain red lines. Our primary interest here is we don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. We don't want nuclear proliferation.
Meanwhile, the U.S. military buildup in the region continues, with an American official telling reporters 50 more fighter jets were recently deployed to the Middle East. And Iran's Fars news agency reporting that the Iranian and Russian navies will conduct a joint drill in the Gulf of Oman, the same area where U.S. naval forces have been deployed in recent weeks. And inside Iran, families across the country have been defying heavy security to honor victims of the January protests, as a 40th day memorial in their honor marks a powerful symbol of resistance. Across Iran, mourners gathered at gravesides, holding memorials for those killed in the crackdown on January 8th and 9th. Now, despite warnings from security forces, closures of cemeteries, and heavy patrols, families performed traditional rituals, released doves, and even danced in grief. Videos show crowds chanting "Death to Khamenei" and applauding the slain, with internet disruptions reported in several areas. Victims ranged widely in age, including teenagers and young adults, highlighting the heavy toll on Iran's youth. The government held its own ceremony, attended by senior officials. Analysts say the 40th day memorial has become a potent symbol of public defiance, illustrating the deep wounds left by the regime's crackdown and the continuing determination of Iranians to honor those killed. An IDF soldier has been killed in what the military describes as a friendly fire incident in southern Gaza overnight. The fallen soldier is named as Staff Sergeant Ofri Yaffe, 21 years old, a fighter in the Paratrooper Brigade's reconnaissance unit. The IDF says he was fatally hit by gunfire from other Israeli forces during operations in the area. The circumstances of the incident are under further investigation. The military has extended its condolences to his family. That ends this update on ILTV. You could continue watching our further broadcasts or check out our app. There's the QR code there appearing now on your screen. Thank you for joining us for this broadcast. I'm Khaled Ben David, and remember to stay tuned.
I don't understand. Like a month ago, we encouraged people in Iran to go outside to fight for themselves against the regime that you're trying to negotiate with.
And save. Like, what do you mean Iran wants to make a deal? On behalf of who? The 40,000 people that they just executed in the streets?
The people of Iran are begging Trump not to negotiate.
You have somebody who has their whole life ahead of them that's exhausted. For them, taking their life was literally freeing themselves.
Yeah.
And the message is to you, hey, we're waiting.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Quad here from our Jerusalem studios with my wonderful co-host, Anne Sagan Fakheri, who is the head of the Persian press desk at the JCFA and an analyst on Iran. Welcome back, Sagan.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here again.
Well, we're always happy to have you back, especially because every week we seem to be discussing Iran. Will he? Won't he? What's going to happen? Whilst we all hold our breaths, also the Iranian diaspora, also people here in Israel, what will happen? What do the Iranians have to say about these new negotiations? Take a look.
When we talk about the nuclear program only, we put that into consideration. Regarding the zero uranium enrichment, it's outside the talks, outside negotiations. The enrichment is our own right, and it will continue. And even if when they attacked us, they couldn't destroy this enrichment because they cannot destroy it through attacking and bombardment. The other hand, regarding the missiles is something that is defensive. We cannot talk about defensive matters, not now and not in the future.
So what exactly can we talk about? We can't talk about enrichment. They can continue enriching. Okay. We can't talk about ballistic missiles because it's their right. So what on earth is going on in the negotiations? What are the American red lines, and do they align with our red lines? So, Gan, you are the expert here, apart from Emily, of course. What is your view on what's going on right now with these negotiations?
Okay, so one thing we know and understand about how the Islamic regime works is that they are the masters of propaganda.
Yeah.
They will go outside, they will come to the UN, they will come to negotiations, suited up, real like nice and like, we're ready to talk, we're gonna like have this like communication with the West.
Diplomatic reason.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you see like in Tehran, you see like in the plaza, in the like the square,
Yeah.
you see them keeping like this war and threatening Israel and threatening like, what do you care? Like you have negotiations with America. Well, like every time Israel is like the place they want like to put attention on. And it's always like, no, they didn't destroy anything, and we're so strong, and we're this and we're that, and like
they try
wake up.
They try
like,
to spin it.
Your people, like the people in Iran, are refusing to acknowledge in the fact that the West is gonna like come to an arrangement with and I'm like, so I don't understand it, and it's all propaganda, and nobody actually knows what's gonna happen after that. If they're gonna come to a conclusion, if there's gonna be a peace, like ceasefire or anything in that matter, or we should wait and just have a look on the situation of the citizens, because I don't understand. Like a month ago, we encouraged people in Iran to go outside to fight for themselves against the regime that you're trying to like negotiate with
and save, essentially. Let me ask you one question, because I've read this, I've seen it, and I want to know if it's true. Is it true that there's cracks at the moment in the IRGC, that people are defecting, that people are leaving? Do you think that's true, or is it just wishful thinking on our part?
No, I think it's happening. Maybe we don't talk about it that much, and maybe the regime is trying like to silence it out, and for sure they're trying to. But we have a diplomat that says, I'm not working with them anymore, and he asked for shelter in Switzerland. So I'm like, so there's so many things happening. I'm like, and people are fleeing Iran and trying to move assets and like money and everything to other parts of the world and try to save themselves. I think there's this paranoia that is very justified.
For the regime.
Yeah, for the regime people, yeah. By like they are afraid that the West is gonna like come in and like the regime is gonna fall. I think that what I said, propaganda, is like they show something outside, and inside I think like it's getting really crumbled. And
I hope so. Emily, last night there's reports that there were more demonstrations, or in the last few days there's been kind of a resurgence, maybe again. Maybe that's just us. Do you think that Trump's tactic at the moment is waiting to push people to do more, to have more defections, to get the Iranian people to do the work that he doesn't want to do because he doesn't want troops on the ground, or to show them that they've got something to replace their regime with? I think what I keep hearing from the people that I know in the White House is, well, he doesn't think that they can be replaced smoothly. It's not going to be an easy thing. And so do you think that Trump's game is, let's just wait and wait, because he talks about waiting. Let's see how much more of the dirty work the Iranian people can do against their own regime, and then we'll come in at the end to kind of finish the job?
I don't think that has anything to do with it, actually. I think that Trump is in his own world where he wants to make a deal and be able to say that he made a deal, or it could be that the whole thing is posturing, the same way that we saw before the 12th Day War in June. We saw very similar behavior. We see more and more and more assets being moved to the Middle East every single day from the United States. So there's by no means is a strike off the table. I don't think that Trump wants or expects the Iranian people to do more, and if he did, then he's seriously delusional because, I mean, having 20, 30, 40,000 people be massacred by their own regime in the span of a few days, immediately after the President of the United States send a message saying help is on its way, like, you've done enough, and not in a good way. Not yet, at least. I hope that he does. I hope that he moves forward with something for the sake of the Iranian people, but I mean, what we've seen already is catastrophic. And you're exactly right about the propaganda. I mean, if there's one war they know how to win, it's the war of narratives, despite the fact that it could be completely false. But they're good at painting those narratives in the West. The funny part is that the Iranians don't believe it.
They don't buy it.
But in the West, people keep believing it because to most of us in the West, it sounds very conspiratorial. But that's the reality of this regime. I mean, we're talking about a regime that blew up a Cinema Rex, that shot down a commercial airliner, PS-752, all in order to frame someone else unsuccessfully. So this is what they do, you know? We can't expect that to change. And that's part of the reason I don't think we can see any kind of actual reform. It has to actually be regime change.
No, a scorpion will always be a scorpion, and that's what I think people don't seem to understand. It's like Hamas, what are you going to do? They're going to disarm, really? It's their whole raison d'etre. That's why they exist. It's the same with this regime. But meanwhile, Trump is telling the world that they have all the time to negotiate. Watch this.
A deal doesn't look like it's been reached yet. How long are you willing to wait?
A deal can be reached. Well, you have to get in position. We have plenty of time. If you remember Venezuela, we waited around for a while, and we're in no rush. We have, very good talks going with Iran. We have very good talks going with Russia and Ukraine. We're doing a lot of good talking, and I think we had the results today were with Iran. It was a meeting. We're going to meet again early next week. And they want to make a deal, Iran, as they should want to make a deal. They know the consequences if they don't.
I mean, no nuclear weapons. Yeah, I mean, why not? Yeah. Forget the ballistic missiles that could destroy a country. And meanwhile...
I'm sorry, I just have to say, even negotiating with this regime, and he keeps referring, Iran wants this, Iran's with that. First of all, they're not the legitimate representation of Iranians. They're not. It's an illegitimate regime. So,
like Maduro.
Personally, I'm biased, but personally, I have a problem with him even saying Iran, because they don't speak for the Iranian people. Like, what do you mean Iran wants to make a deal? On behalf of who? The 40,000 people that they just executed in the streets?
Exactly.
Like, even the message of negotiations is an immoral message at this time. Like, I don't understand what he thinks he's doing when Iran, when the Islamic Republic has been very clear.
The only thing I can think of is that he's biding time to get everything here.
He said get into position.
The region. But meanwhile, like you said, Sogan, the people of Iran are begging Trump not to negotiate. Watch this.
If you're watching this, then I'm not around anymore. If you don't know, I'm from Iran. And a massacre happened in the past few weeks by our government, which is more like a bandit group. More than 40,000 people died, killed, massacred. I want to make this video to send a message to America and to the West in general. Tomorrow, on Friday, President Trump is going to make a deal with this regime. I mean, he told us to keep protesting, and we did it. We trust him. To make a deal with this regime is to betray all those people who died.
Exactly. It's just heartbreaking. Bellamy, is the West not getting it? Or does Trump playing a game? What do you think?
I genuinely don't think the West is getting it. And we've seen a lot of dead bodies in the past few months from what people have been posting, but this video has been haunting me.
Why?
And specifically, his messaging went to a point about he was done. It was enough.
Did he commit?
Yes, gone through.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
Yeah.
Oh.
Shortly after
So this was literally his call out to say, like, I'm leaving, but you need to do something. You told the people to go out onto the streets. They did. They opened the door to what you should be doing right now. And the fact that not just it's not just Trump. It's not just an administration. It's the people in the West that are so silent about what's actually going on. For 2 years and over 2 years, all we have heard about are children in Gaza, and we are committing a genocide and we're doing this. But when you actually have an actual genocide that's currently going on, that has been going on for 47 years against their own people, behind a curtain, behind a wall. And you have somebody who has their whole life ahead of them that's exhausted, that's done enough, that for them taking their life was literally freeing themselves. And the message is to you, hey, we're waiting.
Yeah.
He wasn't waiting anymore.
I mean, it's tragic. I can't, and it's all, the thing is that it's the young people of Iran. They're the ones who are on the front lines of this war, and they're the ones that people in the West are ignoring because the enemy is the wrong enemy for the sensibilities and the paradigm that the young people around the world have made for themselves, the lie and the zombie ideology that they live in. It's just, I mean, it's just, you know, it's almost like, you know, we had this Gaza war, we had these 2 years, and now God knows how long this is going to last. It's like a tale of two wars, and nobody's connecting the dots of these two wars who have the same enemy because, of course, it's the wrong enemy for these zombies in the West. Before we jump in, a quick invitation. The 2026 JNS International Policy Summit is coming up this April 15th through to the 17th, once again at the Waldorf Astoria in Jerusalem. I'll be there, and I really hope you'll join us too. You can visit jns-summit.org to register and to see the speaker lineup. It's an exceptional group this year. I look forward to meeting you in Jerusalem this April. And on that note, we can talk about phase 2 in Gaza, which again, people are completely blind about the fact that Hamas, the terror organization that uses its own children as human shields, is not disarming. And yet we're being pushed into the second phase. And I mean, God knows what's going to happen. The Board of Peace, I think, convened this week or a couple of days ago.
Yeah. I don't know the exact date.
Peace.
We don't know who's on it. We don't know what's on it. We just know what their agenda is when it started, I think.
Just the way that everybody's ignoring the foreign minister of the Islamic Republic when he's saying, we're not going to give up uranium, and we're not going to give up this, and we're not going to give up that. In other words, we have nothing to negotiate. Listen to Khaled Mashal about the resistance.
هذا ينبغي ألا نقبله لأنه هذا إذا أعد السؤال الكبير عن أصل الصراع وأنه قضية احتلال وشعب يقاوم الاحتلال ومن حقه تقرير المصير والاستقلال، عند ذلك سؤال المقاومة يصبح طبيعيا، وسؤال سلاح المقاومة يصبح طبيعيا. إنه هذا فلسفة المقاومة. نحن طالما هناك احتلال هناك مقاومة. المقاومة حق للشعوب تحت الاحتلال، هي جزء من القانون الدولي والشرائع السماوية.
You love his eyeliner.
Okay, first of all, shocker. He's in that disgusting Al Jazeera forum. Where was it? In Doha, of course. Of course. Where else is going to be in the Viper's Den? He's basically completely unrepentant. He's the only one left, really, with a name recognition.
Yeah. Why is he even breathing?
Why is he there? I mean, this guy is a mass murderer. And a
billionaire.
And a billionaire. That's why he's living in a 7-star hotel in Doha. And there he is, whilst Hamas, who apparently have still got a very strong foothold in Gaza, unfortunately, are using ambulances to smuggle weapons. So, I mean, look, we've been here before, right? This is not new. They've used ambulances before. They've used medics before. I love it when all these idiots on X are like, they've killed 400 doctors, all terrorists. They've killed 300 journalists, all terrorists. You know, what else? Anything else? Actors and dancers and violinists, all...
They're all...
Well, most of them were actors. When you act as a journalist, you're an actor. It's a really good one, let me tell you that.
You should know, Zoran.
Listen.
So I forgot to say, Zoran is star of the Tehran series. Watch her there.
Yeah. So as someone who, because of my job, like in Tehran, I was like really trying to understand how Islam works. And it works like this, that you can say anything you want. You can have any mask on just to keep the ideology of Islam going.
Takia, they call it now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this is like, they don't care. They don't care. It could be a hospital, it could be an ambulance, and you don't see it only in Gaza. And I'm sorry for taking it back to Iran, but
no, you're right.
Like it happened in Gaza like a year ago, let's say. In Iran, it happened like a week ago.
What happened?
That they entered hospitals, shooting people in their beds and killing them.
They also were documented using ambulances, unmarked ambulances to
the ambulance, like
protest.
The Basij are hiding inside the ambulances,
Same
and it's
playbook.
like it's crazy, and it's the same thing. And the people who don't see that this person is calling for a weaponized resistance. I mean, okay, tomorrow, let me tell you that in the future, if you're letting like this happen and people are supporting this, tomorrow it will happen in New York.
Exactly.
It will happen in New York.
It's guerrilla tactics 101, which so many people know absolutely nothing about. But when you also I come from a country that was trained to do things like that by the exact same people that live off of that ideology. So to me, when I speak to a Westerner and they're like, there's no such thing as tequila. What do you mean? They're lying. I'm going, what are you talking about? You're too busy watching Real Housewives of something and you think that's more entertaining and that's more educational, brain rot, than to actually listen to people that are telling you that there's something that is very off that's going on. It's not a conspiracy. People are literally in sleeper cells, even in the West, and they have no clue who's around them. But no, it's Islamophobia. No.
Yeah.
But I noticed that the way that I mean, obviously it was in Arabic, but the way that he described about resistance is something that we've heard a lot of in the past couple of years, even before that, but especially in the last couple of years, this concept that you have a right to resistance when you're an occupied people. There is no basis in any international law for this argument. You are never permitted under any circumstances to attack or kill civilians because you are occupied. That doesn't exist. It's this fantastical notion that keeps getting repeated by people like Francesca Albanese and people like Khaled Mashal, incidentally, both of them at the same conference, Al Jazeera. And it's not true. It's simply not true. There is no right. That's not how international law works, even if you're occupied, and even if that occupation is illegal, which, by the way, this isn't, I would argue, but there is a debate over, whether an occupation is illegal or legal, also in this conflict. But the idea that gives someone a right to violence is insane. Otherwise, you would see people in Cyprus blowing people up all the time. That's not how it works.
But that's what Bellamy said. What message are you now giving to the world, to terrorists all around the world, when you say, look, you can start a war, you can massacre, you can rape, you can kill, you can kidnap. And then at the end of it, the person who started it, who obviously lost the war, can still rearm or can still keep their arms. Like you say, Sagan, what is the message that you're giving? And Emily, you forgot one thing. You're never illegal on stolen land. Like Billie Eilish, Billie Chachmalog, as we say in Hebrew, she's such an intelligent woman that she made that really bold statement at the Grammys that now the tribe of the place in Malibu where she owns her $14 million house are claiming it back.
Yeah.
You idiot. You idiot. I can't with these people.
It's the same thing because it's constant virtue signaling. Because I remember a few years back when, everybody, especially during COVID, this was when people are on Skid Row, hungry, people aren't in mental hospitals and institutions and being taken care of because they were using those for undocumented, I'm supposed to say, you're an illegal alien. And I can say that.
Well, you can say, but you went through the whole process.
I went through the whole process
of being a legal immigrant of the United States.
From student visa to work visa to EB1 green card to citizenship naturalized. And what upsets me more than anything else is the fact that since I was 17 years old when I landed in the US, I'm a guest. Until I swear and take my oath, I'm a guest. And I also pay taxes. So quite frankly, I don't care for somebody to be kept in a mental institution. And then you have these celebrities going, but we should just open the doors. And then what did they do years ago? They put them in buses and sent them to Martha's Vineyard. Apparently, you can welcome everybody. Open your door, just not mine.
Yes.
Yeah.
NIMBY, as we say, not in my backyard. And that is the hypocrisy of the progressives. And I just had to get that Billie Eilish thing on because I just love the
Listen,
fact
I
that
love
she's
her.
been sued.
I love
No,
Billie.
that
When I was young,
of course,
she was amazing. She was so bold. She was like going against everything in the industry.
Yes, the
And it was
patriarchy.
so good.
Until
Bro, you were homeschooled, and I'm pro homeschooling when it's matching you.
Until you
but
have your own
probably
children.
you didn't learn history or anything else. And let me tell you that one thing. And I'm not like, I grew up in a Muslim state. Iran is like the Islamic state and country, and people are sick of it, okay? But let me tell you, I'm into any religion as long as you're good, as long as you don't like interfere in my life. But let me tell you, Muhammad, when he did the hijrah, when he moved from Mecca to Medina, he killed anyone who wasn't going to believe in whatever he believed.
Especially the Jews, who wouldn't accept
the tribes there.
He wouldn't accept the words, and that got murdered and massacred.
Yeah.
But this is Mamdani's argument for anti-ICE executive orders.
Yeah, but he didn't. Yeah.
What is it?
That's what he said in his press conference. He literally said
that he was an immigrant. He was an immigrant.
That his reason for this was because in Islam, the story of Muhammad teaches us about the hijrah, and the hijrah was to welcome the stranger.
Yes,
exactly.
Except that you got massacred.
About that.
With the sword, they massacred so many.
Yeah.
And Mandani is the same type of new age moron, whatever you call it, as Billie Eilish, but even worse because he knows exactly what he's doing. And meanwhile, 15 people got frozen to death on the streets of New York because as mayor, you have one job, to keep your people safe. And you were too busy meddling in international politics that you know nothing about or have absolutely no legitimacy to talk about. And you let your own people die during a storm, one of the worst storms that happened to New York. So that's that. Okay, moving on to our very favorite segment, Scumbag of the Week. We have so many scumbags, so little time. Bellamy, which one is yours this week?
Mine is not just the African National Congress, not just the government that is South Africa, but specifically Minister Sindisiwe Chikunga, who spoke at the 47th commemoration of the IRGC in South Africa.
Oh, they had a party?
Yes, on February 6th at the Menlyn Hotel in Pretoria. And funny enough, it's always in Pretoria, the same place where during apartheid, they would take you as a political prisoner and throw you off the roof.
Oh,
so funny how that goes, because I think we have a neighbor that loves to throw people off the roof, but it's so disgusting when I say to people constantly, you don't understand what a massive red flag South Africa is. No, well, what did they do? But there's Nelson Mandela, but you should feel it in a different way. Yes, but I grew up in something that I don't understand how I ran away from it. I think there's something wrong with me because I should be chanting in the street that I'm not free until Palestine is free. And I quite frankly should be agreeing with the regime. What's wrong with me?
There's a lot wrong with you. I mean,
just not that.
Apparently. You stepped out of the line of your South Africa education and became a Jew. Yeah, I mean, just for that, you should be
stoned to death.
Exactly. Anyway,
I find it repulsive as well that there are children that are in the streets believing the same kind of indoctrination at the southern tip of a continent that has nothing to do with the Middle East.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh dear. Well, so many. I love you're bringing in the South African angle, and it's important because they're such enablers legally and in so many other forums, and they've become really the capital of these evil bastards. That's what's happened to South Africa. Emily, who's your scumbag this week?
Well, my scumbag, I was going to do the whole Al Jazeera forum, but I guess I'll hone in on one person specifically.
It's always
hard because there were so many scumbags.
The story of one.
Al Jazeera itself is a scumbag.
Yes.
I mean, how can I choose?
Yes.
But anyway, this week was the Al Jazeera media conference held in Doha, and we saw, as I mentioned earlier, Francesca Albanese and also Khaled Mashal and also Aragchi, the foreign minister of the Islamic Republic. So it's just a whole group of winners. I think we have a clip of Francesca, if we can play that.
Instead of stopping Israel, most of the world has armed giving it political excuses, political sheltering, economic and financial support. We now see that we, as a humanity, have a common enemy.
We have a common enemy. I wonder who she's referring to when she talks about a common enemy the same way Adolf Hitler did. But that's tended to be expected from Francesca Albanese because that's how she talks. That's what she's done. That's her track record, and that's what she truly believes. We saw just not too long ago she was retweeting people saying that Jews were evil incarnate.
Yes.
Israel. Israel is evil incarnate, not Jews, right? Anyway, that's Francesca. You're my scumbag of the week. Many other weeks as well, but this week in particular, you deserve it.
She joined the flotilla.
She should.
Probably will.
And we could sink it. That would be a savior to the world. Like super crazy.
Nazi rhetoric.
Nazi rhetoric. Well, you know, maybe her grandfather was Mussolini. I'm beginning to think.
I mean, she sounds like
it. She really does. And look how he ended up. Naked on the streets of Italy, being dragged and everybody shouting shame. So we can only dream. Okay. So gone. Who is
I was waiting for that. Yeah. Listen, last time I enjoyed it so much. I was like going directly to Khamenei, but okay. This time my scumbag has a chance to redeem themselves.
Really?
That's like I'm
the
so
redeemable scumbag.
Yeah, I'm into like forgiving people, some people. So exactly 1 month ago, today is February 9th. January 9th, the people of Iran were outside in the streets fighting for a future.
Yeah.
The US said they're going to come. Okay, whatever. But, okay, let's say they're coming. Who should protect the people inside Iran? The Artesh. The Artesh is the National Army of Iran.
Artesh?
Artesh.
We don't hear that enough.
We don't hear that because Iran has 2 guards. Like, they have the IRGC.
That protects the regime?
Yeah, no, but it's like it functions as an army.
Okay.
They have everything: Air Force, Navy, like everything like you have, and the Quds and Basij. We all know about that. Yeah. And we have Artesh, which also has like the commando forces, the Navy, the Air Force, and their responsibility is to stand with the people of Iran. When your brothers and sisters, your families are getting massacred in the streets, you are not like under Khamenei. You're with the people. You're with the people. You should defend your people and go and fight with them. And your guns should point the regime and the Basij and the whatever like oppressing forces they used, and not towards the people. And let me just, I don't know if you watched it, but like previous days, like just a few days before the protests, you saw people of the Artesh holding like signs, like lighting up Khamenei's picture. So where are you? And I know like some of them wanted, like they didn't want to cooperate with like the oppressing corps, but like, where are you? Like, you're so many people.
So are they armed? Are they resolved?
Yes. They're functioning.
So what you're saying is they are scared, I assume, of the IRGC.
Listen,
it's like you know what it's like, the Lebanese army and Hezbollah. Like you never know where one ends and the other one begins. Is it like that with the Artesh?
No.
They're separate forces.
2 separate like organizations.
So you're like, where the hell are they?
Where are you?
That's a good point.
I just want to say, you have like, maybe you don't have the trust of the people anymore, but you can gain it back. You can win the trust again. Just stand with the people and defend them when they're trying to protest and fight for their lives and for your lives.
Exactly.
Because you are the trash of the armies in Iran. So.
Oh my God, some shade on the Artesh. Well, first of all, thank you for educating us. I did not understand that there was a separate kind of people's army that is absolutely not doing much.
Yeah.
I understood that many people were defective.
It's the national, but you know.
Yeah, but I also didn't understand also what powers they have as opposed to the IRGC. I didn't realize it was a separate kind of jurisdiction.
Well, the IRGC also, that's why it's not the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, it's the Islamic revolutionary.
So they're fighting for Islamic jihad fundamentalism, and the People's Army are doing nothing because they're probably scared.
By the way, this is another reason why IRGC designation is not a problem. For so many years, they've used this as an excuse, claiming, oh, well, we don't know because it's a national army and it's a state actor. Yes, you do. It's totally fine. And as it is, terror designation exempts people who are mandatory, like if they're drafted, which sometimes people are drafted into the IRGC. So it's already exempted. All the excuses for the lack of designation.
Well,
nonsense.
That segues beautifully into my scumbag of the week, which is the EU. But not for the reasons you might think. But let's just say that better late than never, I think it was a week, 2 weeks ago, they finally prescribed the IRGC as a terrorist organization. Like, little late to the party, but better late than never. Okay, but the reason they are my scumbag this week is because Scott Bessent, for those of you who don't know, is the Treasury Secretary of the US, okay? He's basically the guy in charge of money. He's brilliant, actually, if you get a chance to look him up. He's so morally clear, so smart. He doesn't get emotional about anything, and people say such idiotic things at him, and he just like breaks down the arguments one by one. And he's doing a great job as a Treasury Secretary of the United States. But this week, he actually made quite an explosive claim that makes the EU my scumbag. And basically, he uncovered that the EU has been buying refined oil from India that Russia is selling to India. So hold on with me here. The EU have sanctioned Russia because of its aggressive war against Ukraine. The EU pretends it's on the side of Ukraine. Let's get more money to help the people of Ukraine who've been attacked by big, bad Russia. And at the same time, because they're worried about their energy resources, they have been buying sanctioned oil from Russia, but through India. So I guess it makes it okay. And so what Scott Bessent is saying is that Europe, the EU, is funding the war against itself because the EU is standing and helping and financing Ukraine, and yet they're also financing the other side. And that's how morally bankrupt they are, which we knew because of the way that they've been treating us over many years. It's a shame because we are an important trade partner. Israel and the EU are important trade partners. But when it comes to moral clarity or reasoning, I don't know what's happened to the EU, but I really applaud Scott Bessent for basically opening our eyes to what's really going on in the Ukraine-Russia war. And that is that essentially both sides are financing both sides of this war, which means that ending this, and maybe Trump, who people don't give him enough credit for the trade tariffs that he's putting, maybe there is a logic to the things that he's doing in terms of tariffs. But yes, the EU, for this very reason, you are my scumbag this week. Okay.
You know, they could avoid all that together if they just supported regime change in Iran and built a new Iran where they could have a better energy deal. Absolutely. And then they don't have to work with Russia anymore. But that would be like logical.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. We'll have to see.
They could.
We'll have to see. I mean, they can go that direction.
The thing about Iran is that with all of its incredible resources in crude oil, they don't really have refining capabilities. The EU could be that refining capability arm. And like you say, and not have to deal with other despots in Europe.
It would be a big middle finger to China and Russia both, which is both things I love.
Why don't you just let the Quad women run the world? Yes. And I could put my hand on fire that the result would be better. Just saying. Just saying. Okay. And on that note, heroes of the week. So go on, let's start with your hero.
Okay, so as we talked, the internet came back in Iran, and we have seen like so many videos in the media, like it never ends, like so many evidence. Like this guy is Hamid Mahdavi, and he was a firefighter, and he was protesting during the protests, and he saw this man injured. I couldn't find his name. He came back, got him like on his back, tried to save him. He managed to save him, but he got shot.
Oh,
he got killed.
God. And he got shot the moment that he was saving this other person?
Maybe after, like after this video or something. Yeah. So the thing is that I found his Instagram, and I just want to read you his bio because it was like such a great bio. He He made me cry, actually. So his bio actually says being a firefighter is not just putting down fires. It's like having your family calm down, like trying to be a family man, trying to be like a good person, stuff. Like saying like all the things. And then he said, but you don't have like time for yourself. And this is an example of a person who put everything at risk. His family, his life, and he saved a person trying to save his nation. And it's just one example of who are the Iranian people. And this is a great video, a great example. And as we see videos of Basij guys who get like attacked by the protesters, they run away. They don't care about their team fellows or the crew or team or whatever. But those people who don't know each other, they have each other's backs. And it's one of the most like moving, touching videos I've seen. And it's just
so sad.
Just a
because they're standing for freedom, and these people are standing to what? To keep a murderous regime in place? They should all run away like rats. Well, that is a wonderful, wonderful hero.
Yes.
It's a hero that gave up his life to save other people. Well,
let's not forget that.
Yes, let's never forget that, and we will keep talking about that here. Emily, who's your hero this week?
So my hero is the direct response to a prior scumbag, a repeat offender. Tucker Carlson.
Repeat offender.
So this week we saw that Tucker Carlson had a whole special about how awful it is for Christians in Israel, which is of course ridiculous because this is the one country in the Middle East where the Christian population is actually growing, the one where they're actually protected and their rights to practice their religion are not only protected under law, but defended as well in practice. So it's ridiculous to be singling out persecution of Christians in Israel in the first place. But Tucker Carlson has an agenda, obviously. And so that brings us to my hero this week, which is the U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee. He's done a lot of great things. I'm a big fan, but he called out Tucker Carlson very forcefully on social media and invited him to speak with Ambassador Huckabee himself directly about the status of Christians in Israel. As we know, Ambassador Huckabee is a big Christian Zionist, but Christian as well. And he is going to be speaking to Tucker Carlson, allegedly, about the situation of Christians in the Middle East. We'll see if Tucker actually moves forward with that interview. I hope he does, because I'm sure that Huckabee will really give it to him. But yes, Ambassador Huckabee, you're my hero this week for calling him out on this and for being the person to be willing to sit face to face and debunk this absolute nonsense that we keep hearing from Tucker Carlson. Or should I say Tucker Carlson?
Carlson. It's so true. He's such a great guy. He lives in Jerusalem, of course, because since the embassy moved in, he comes everywhere. I see him everywhere. He's part of life here.
Yeah.
And he's just so morally clear. And just to follow up on your point, and I'm sure that Huckabee is going to do a fantastic job against. I can't wait to see that, by the way. I mean,
one episode I'll watch.
Yes, I want to make T-shirts and do like a, how do they call it, a showing?
Watch party.
A launch party. Yeah, I'm going to do a launch party at my house. But just to refine your point, we had here the apostate prophet. And when we were talking about this subject, he said, you know, there's a list in the world where Christians are persecuted. Of course, we're not even on the list.
Yeah.
Why would we be? You thrive here as a Christian. North Korea, Somalia, Yemen, Libya, Eritrea, Nigeria, Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan, Sudan, India. No Israel. And so, yes, that hypocrisy of Tucker Carlson. I would have made him my scumbag, but I'm tired of giving this hater more attention because
You mentioned the Board of Peace.
Yeah, exactly. I was looking at Bellamy. I was like, yeah, you're there. No.
Bellamy, you're right. Okay, who's your hero, dear?
For somebody that's so sick and tired of virtue signaling in Hollywood, my hero this week is Gaza Feldstein, whose real name is Mike Levy, and he got a Grammy. And this is actually how you should receive an award because you're an artist. Take a look at this.
God, there he is. Thank God.
Who's this?
That's Gaza Feldstein.
Is he wearing a mask?
Yeah, that's his shtick.
What does he make?
He's a music producer. and a DJ.
That kid nobody ever
No one knows what he looks like?
No, no, you know. His name is Mike Levy.
It's a 40-year-old French Jewish guy, Zionist, and keeps his mouth shut.
Cute. That's it.
Yes.
Sometimes that's enough.
Shut up. Shut up.
And he DJs around the world, and he's also a very well-known producer. He produced Lady Gaga's Abracadabra.
Yeah.
So that for me was a great way to send a very clear message. But knowing who Hollywood is, everybody kept saying, it's National Black History Month. Well, he's in blackface. No, he's not in blackface. What did you call Sia? Hairface? Then that's going back and forth. He's literally just wearing a mask because his job is to produce music. So you gave him an award. He didn't say anything. He received it and he left. And there's a problem with that, apparently.
Of course, there's a problem with that because he didn't say something completely moronic about a conflict they know nothing about. Well, I'd never heard of him, but now I will certainly look him up, and I'm very curious to know what he actually looks like. Okay, my heroes this week are the Israeli bobsled team at the Winter Olympics who call themselves Shul Runnings. For those of you who haven't seen, just watch this.
Honey, prophets, kings, ancient olive trees, and psalms the cantor sings. Home of David, Moses, desert sand. No bobsled run from Haifa to the Dan. We crossed the Red Sea, beat Pharaoh's banner. It's a license, no. Hockey, yes we can. Show runnings, we're flying down the track. Whoa. Show runnings, ain't no holding us back. Whoa. Tel Aviv to Milano, ice beneath the sled. Pray a little faster.
So I have to say the head of this team, the captain, is a really lovely guy called AJ Edelman, who I met a number of years ago. And a number of years ago, he had this vision. He got no support from Israel, from the Culture and Sports Ministry, no funding. He went, they thought he was nuts. It's like that movie Cool Runnings. They thought he was nuts, like Israeli bobsled team. He went, he had this vision. He recruited an incredible group of athletes, including a Druze athlete, I think one of the first to go to
the first Olympian.
The first Druze Olympian coming from Israel. Look how proud we have to be. And he set up this whole team. He raised the money himself. He slept on people's couches for years because he had this dream of creating this team. When I met him, it was way before October 7th. I thought, this guy's crazy, but he could actually, the crazy could really win. And I'm just so proud to see them there. And they've been through so much adversity. They were booed on the day that they came out. Then their hotel room was burgled. They stole all their things, their money, their passports, and equipment. They came up with the coolest bobsled. He must have gotten some really cool artists to do this. And we, the whole country, and I think the whole Jewish world, is really behind the Israeli bobsled team led by my friend AJ Edelman, a true visionary. And I really can't wait to see them winning. So they are my heroes this week. And this is how we do offense. Defense is crying about people attacking us. Offense is saying, you know what, you're going to boo us, you're going to steal from us. You know what our response is? We're going to win. That is what we need all to be doing, and not, leaning into like, oh, poor us, feel sorry for us. And on that note, I say goodbye with my friends here until another week, and we pray for the liberation of the people of Iran. We pray for regional peace, whatever that means. We pray for quiet, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Sorry, what are you doing here?
I came here to the IIC to spread the word about Israel's security challenges on the northern borders. We produce a lot of information around that, and we also brief people from around the globe around that in our center in the north. We are based in the north, so we don't only speak about the north, we also experience everything that happens there. And
our mission is to provide accessible knowledge about what's happening in Syria, in Lebanon, the IRGC, any security threat that is posed to Israel, we are there.
So what's going on in Lebanon these days, especially when we see what's happening in Iran right now?
To tell you the truth, it doesn't have an impact yet. Iran views Hezbollah as its project, and even after Nasrallah was killed, it didn't abandon the project. Only last week, when you had huge protests in Iran, the Iranian foreign minister landed in Lebanon with some suspicious suitcases that the Lebanese saying that they prevented them from entering. I'm not sure.
Do you know what they had inside?
I am guessing
Tell me.
It could be cash to Hezbollah. Again, they are saying they didn't let them in. I'm not sure. They're not always telling the truth.
Yes.
But it is clearly an indication that the Iranians are the one who are pushing behind to make sure that Hezbollah will not be disarmed, and to make sure that the Lebanese army will not disarm Hezbollah.
So what do you think the Trump administration, they're trying to disarm Hezbollah as well, they're trying to do with Hamas. But if you're saying right now that Hezbollah is not going to really disarm.
No, they're saying that clearly. I'm not saying that, they're saying that.
So what do you think Trump administration should know?
That in the Middle East, it doesn't matter what piece of paper you signed on. What matters is whether you truly implemented the agreement. And in many cases here, agreements are being signed, but nobody has any intention to truly implement them. This is right to Hamas in Gaza, and it's right for the Lebanese government. I think they're cheated. They said that they completely disarmed Hezbollah south of the Litani River, and we don't see any proofs for that. Every day IDF is killing Hezbollah military operatives in South Lebanon, in those places, or bombing storages of weapons in those places. So clearly, it didn't happen.
Do you think maybe under Trump administration, maybe, I don't know, we will see peace between Israel and Lebanon without Hezbollah? Maybe I'm talking not now, not tomorrow, but like in 3 years from now.
It all depends on the Lebanese. If the Lebanese will be willing to clash with Hezbollah, which this is the only way.
Happen?
Very little. Eventually, the biggest thing that the Trump administration had done in Lebanon for us is to give us a green light to continue the attacks against Hezbollah as long as the Lebanese army doesn't deliver, and to stay in the 5 points, which are actually literally securing our border, because it's a border that is really difficult to defend with the terrain. It's hills and valleys and forested areas and communities which are literally based at the fence. And that's why it's so important to have those hills which are watching the whole area. Like I live 9 kilometers from the border, and I can see from my hometown one of these hills.
Wow.
Well, IDF today is on top instead of Hezbollah. There used to be Hezbollah on top.
It's insane. What do you hear from the people, the citizens in Lebanon? They're looking to replace Hezbollah?
Look, when you cannot speak about the citizens of Lebanon, because it's a very diverse society.
Right.
There are different views there.
Christians.
And clearly the Christians and the Sunnis, Muslims, the vast majority are against Hezbollah, speaking out loud against Hezbollah. This is not something new. The big question is around the Muslim Shiite base of Hezbollah. And here, clearly, we and the Lebanese government didn't eliminate the civilian branch of Hezbollah, which is the state within a state. Hezbollah still provides its own base with education, with allowances, with medical services, and it's very much involved in the everyday life of these people. Iran is supporting those projects of whatever infrastructures in Lebanon in order to gain support. And as long as Lebanese state is enabling that, and Hezbollah is a legitimate political party in Lebanon, it will continue to use its own people as human shields.
First of all, let's do a jump to Syria. Who's Ahmed Ashara?
Ahmed Ashara is not a former terrorist. He is a terrorist.
Okay.
Okay? It doesn't belong to the past. That's the biggest mistake of the West. When he was asked in Forum Doha about exactly this question, are you a terrorist? He said, I am the terrorist. Those who killed people in Afghanistan and Iraq are terrorists. He meant United States and the UK, clearly, and he also talked about Israel. He completely denies his past as a terrorist, not because he didn't do anything, not because he regrets that, because he thinks it's okay. And the organization that he led in Syria, HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, is responsible for 600 terrorist attacks in Syria, which they claim responsibility to. So he is not a former terrorist. He is a terrorist. Moreover, we find out at the Alma Center, we made the research, and we find out that only in the past year, Ahmed al-Shara established 35 schools all over Syria of the HTS network of schools. This means that today in total, there are 70 elementary schools in Syria that are educating the children to adhere to Al-Qaeda ideology.
Oh my God. Do you think President Trump knows it?
I don't know. We published the report a week ago, and even me, I was amazed by the findings of the report because we just asked this question of what's the educational system looks like, and we find out that Ahmed al-Shara is not investing in the Ministry of Education, regular education. It is investing in this school net of the HTS, which today in the world, the HTS is not considered a terrorist group anymore, so money comes in.
President Trump sees him like the future of Syria.
The future of Syria is to become an Islamist state by this net of education.
Do you really believe that Israel will make any kind of agreement with him?
I truly believe that we will, because nobody understands what he's heading in. He's very pragmatic, and he is using this pragmatism to, on the one hand, build relationship with Israel or with the West and gain the money that will come here to make Syria great again, if you like. But at the same time, he's investing in building an Islamist society. At the same time, he's massacring his minorities, Druze, Alawites, and Kurds.
Right.
As we speak, this is happening. At the same time, in various places in Syria, you hear chanting, Khaybar, Khaybar, Ya Yahud. You know what does that mean? This is an anti-Semitic chanting that calls for the extinction of Jews.
It's insane. What message would you like to send to President Trump that he may not know about all this situation?
I am happy that President Trump is supporting Israel. I do believe that he is the greatest supporter we have ever had in the U.S. We've seen this with the agreement in Gaza, and even with Lebanon, everything I've discussed. With Syria, I want to make sure we all understand who we are facing. We can have an agreement with them, but it should be based on actual guarantees that will make us safe, and not with just words or, you know, trust or anything like that.
Sari, thank you so much for your time and
Thank
for
you.
your knowledge.
Thank you for having me.
you.
Back to ILTV on the Hour. I'm Kalev Ben David, coming to you live from Israel, bringing you all the biggest headlines from across the region. Here are the latest developments. U.S. and Israeli security sources are saying that the negotiations with Iran are faltering and an American strike against the Tehran regime could be imminent, even within the coming days. A White House source told Axios that chances of a U.S. strike against Iran have risen to 90%. And the operation would be stronger and longer than many anticipate. This is despite the fact that following a second round of negotiations in Geneva, a U.S. official said progress was made, but many details remain unresolved. According to the official, Iranian representatives told the U.S. side they would return with specific proposals to close gaps between the two positions. And earlier in the day, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi expressed optimism about the direction of the talks.
A new window of opportunity has opened, under which we had the second round of the negotiations with the United States earlier today here in Geneva. We are hopeful that negotiation will lead to a sustainable and negotiated solution which can serve the interest of relevant parties and the broader region. At the same time, as demonstrated during the aggression of 13 June 2025, Iran remains fully prepared to defend itself against any threat or act of aggression. The consequences of any attack against Iran will not be confined to its borders.
But U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said all options still remain on the table.
I think the president has a lot of options. We do have a very powerful military. The president's shown a willingness to use it. He also has a remarkable diplomatic team. He's shown a willingness to use that too. And so what the president has been very clear with the Iranians, and actually I just talked to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner this morning about some of their negotiations, is the United States has certain red lines. Our primary interest here is we don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. We don't want nuclear proliferation.
Meanwhile, the U.S. military buildup in the region continues, with an American official telling reporters 50 more fighter jets were recently deployed to the Middle East. And Iran's Fars news agency reporting that the Iranian and Russian navies will conduct a joint drill in the Gulf of Oman, the same area where U.S. naval forces have been deployed in recent weeks. And inside Iran, families across the country have been defying heavy security to honor victims of the January protests, as a 40th day memorial in their honor marks a powerful symbol of resistance. Across Iran, mourners gathered at gravesites, holding memorials for those killed in the crackdown on January 8th and 9th. Now, despite warnings from security forces, closures of cemeteries, and heavy patrols, families performed traditional rituals, released doves, and even danced in grief. Videos show crowds chanting "Death to Khamenei" and applauding the slain, with internet disruptions reported in several areas. Victims ranged widely in age, including teenagers and young adults, highlighting the heavy toll on Iran's youth. The government held its own ceremony, attended by senior officials. Analysts say the 40th day memorial has become a potent symbol of public defiance, illustrating the deep wounds left by the regime's crackdown and the continuing determination of Iranians to honor those killed. An IDF soldier has been killed in what the military describes as a friendly fire incident in southern Gaza overnight. The fallen soldier is named as Staff Sergeant Ofri Yaffe, 21 years old, a fighter in the Paratrooper Brigade's reconnaissance unit. The IDF says he was fatally hit by gunfire from other Israeli forces during operations in the area. The circumstances of the incident are under further investigation. The military has extended its condolences to his family. That ends this update on ILTV. You could continue watching our further broadcasts or check out our app. There's the QR code there appearing now on your screen. Thank you for joining us for this broadcast. I'm Khaled Ben David, and remember to stay tuned.
Welcome back to Axis of Truth, and today we're exposing the truth about the Iranian opposition. After all, everyone's asking, if not the Islamic Republic, then who or what? There absolutely is a viable alternative to the Islamic Republic, but as of now, only one. Now, one of the biggest lies being told about Iran right now is that there are many figures in the Iranian opposition, and that the West needs to somehow hear from all of these figures and options before deciding if they're going to throw support behind someone. Now, this entire approach rests on false premises, because those claiming to be alternative opposition are not, in fact, opposition at all. And here's why. Take, for example, the Mujahideen, also known as MEK or NCRI in the United States. They're a Marxist Islamist group that previously was on the terror list in the United States. They're very loud, they're very well funded, especially in their network of groups that operate outside of Iran, and they have no shortage of lobbyists. Inside Iran, however, zero legitimacy. In fact, they're on par with the regime itself in terms of how hated they are. Now, it's crucial to understand that, contrary to how they present themselves, the MEK is not a democratic opposition movement. Former members have described how it operates like a cult. And in the 1970s, they carried out assassinations of American military and civilian personnel in Iran, including U.S. Air Force officers and a U.S. Army lieutenant colonel. Now, after the 1979 Islamic Revolution, the MEK supported Khomeini and publicly backed the U.S. Embassy hostage crisis. MEK was also responsible for the trashing of the Israeli diplomatic office inside Tehran, among other groups, during the revolution. Only after losing power to the clerical regime did they turn their violence against the Islamic Republic, after first helping them overthrow the Shah in 79. In 1981, the MEK also carried out a series of bombings that killed senior Iranian officials and civilians. And when they were forced out of Iran, they didn't turn to the Iranian people, they turned to Saddam Hussein. The MEK was based in Iraq for decades, funded, armed, and protected by Saddam. And they even participated in his war against Iran. This is just one of several reasons that the MEK is viewed inside Iran not as an opposition group, but as a traitorous terror group.
The 2026 JNS International Policy Summit is coming up April 15 to 17th at the Waldorf Astoria in Jerusalem. It's shaping up to be a phenomenal few days, and we'd love for you to join us. Visit jnssummit.org to register and take a look at the speaker lineup, including me. It's a top-level group. Hope to meet you in Jerusalem this April.
While polls in Iran are, of course, limited, those that have been conducted show less than 1% support among Iranians inside of Iran and less than 6% amongst Iranians abroad. So why do they keep coming up in discussions of opposition? Let's talk about how the MEK operates today. The group is under the absolute control of Maryam Rajavi, who calls herself literally Iran's president-elect, despite no one electing her. Now, former members have described, as I mentioned, the MEK as a cult that practices forced divorce, forced celibacy, family separation, psychological and physical abuse, and in some cases, forced sterilization of women, according to reports. Former members have also testified to sexual abuse and coercion by the leadership. Now, today, its most devoted members live in a compound known as Ashraf 3 in Albania, isolated from the outside world, while their leadership lives comfortably in Europe. And how are they able to sustain all this? Money. The MEK has poured millions of dollars into buying legitimacy. They paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for speeches from American politicians and even former officials such as Rudy Giuliani, John Bolton, and even former Vice President Mike Pence. They spent at least $5.1 million on lobbying firms just to get delisted as a foreign terrorist organization in the United States. And they also pushed legislation in the United States claiming to support a free Iran, but explicitly endorse MEK's 10-point plan from their front group in America, the National Council of Resistance in Iran, as I mentioned, NCRI. Now, the NCRI functions as the MEK's political arm and its liaison to Western lawmakers. They intentionally misrepresent themselves as being somehow representative of Iranians, leaving lawmakers confused as to their lobbying access and that they actually have popular support from Iranians. Any support for MEK, in fact, ends up empowering groups that Iranians reject. But what about alternatives inside of Iran, right? Let's talk about the other fake opposition, reformists. Today in the international media, we're hearing a lot about so-called reformists, such as the president of the Islamic Republic today, Masoud Pezeshkian. Now, what's important to understand here is that there is no such thing as reforming in the Islamic Republic. The mullahs even create fake opposition so that the regime always ultimately stays in control. And that's why Pezeshkian is the president in the first place. When international pressure on the Islamic regime increases, so too does the discussion of reforms domestically to improve, supposedly, the situation for the people. Now, the problem is that there are never actual meaningful changes. It's a tactic demonstrated for 47 years. For example, when the regime murdered 22-year-old Kurdish Iranian Mahsa Amini, they discussed loosening hijab laws. Well, there was pressure. But the second that everyone continued with the news cycle internationally, they actually passed a crackdown on the mandatory hijab. And this is why Iranians, from left to right politically, are almost entirely united today against the idea of reform, because it's simply not possible under the Islamic regime's system. Reformists are a managed faction within the Islamic Republic designed to preserve the system. That's why figures like Mohammad Khatami, widely considered a reformist, never challenged the guardianship of the Islamic jurist, the system, which rules the decisions of the regime. Reformism exists to buy time, to calm protests, to convince the West that the regime can somehow be fixed. Every major protest wave has proven this to be false. Now, here is the key question. If the MEK is a cult, and reformists serve that regime, who actually has the legitimacy to lead a new and free Iran? The answer is the person that the Iranians keep risking their lives to support, and the person that MEK and the regime both will do anything to try to take down, Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. Now, it's critical to understand that this doesn't mean a monarchy is being imposed on Iran. In fact, this is one of the most dishonest attacks used against Iranians and the Crown Prince today. He himself has consistently said he's in favor of a democratic transition, and he doesn't want to be king. He said explicitly, including in my interviews with him, that the future system must be decided by the Iranian people alone in a referendum, and that he looks to examples of constitutional monarchy or parliamentary monarchy as examples. The reality is that transitions require trust and coordination. They require a figure who can unify, communicate, and protect a path to a democratic process. We're also talking about a region that isn't like the West. They don't always have the same level of civic advancement that democratic states might have. Take Egypt, for example. Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is no champion of civil rights, but he's dealing with terrorist insurgencies constantly. Does the U.S. refuse support as a result? No, because he is advancing stability in the region. So why this pretend facade of the West not wanting to formally endorse and back the Crown Prince as a transition leader in a free Iran because of democracy? This is a prime example of Western stupidity and hypocrisy. Here you have a leader that's pro-West, who wants to reform Iran into a friendly, democratic country, who has the backing to unify a fractured, broken country, who doesn't even want to be king, and you're hesitating? Contrast that with the stupidity exemplified by the West on Syria. They're propping up a former terrorist to take over the country where he is already mass slaughtering minorities, but not a word from the same democracy advocates that are so hesitant about Iran. And I'm sorry, but if the Iranian people actually did hypothetically end up choosing a full-on monarchy, who is the West to tell them otherwise? Why can we accept monarchy for all kinds of U.S. allies in the region, including, by the way, gross human rights violators like Qatar? But for Iranians, it's unacceptable? This is imperialism. And if the West really cares about democracy, then they should be throwing everything they have behind Reza Pahlavi. Iranians shouldn't be required to meet a higher standard than any other people fighting a dictatorship. So here's what should be done. Stop platforming the MEK and its front network. For lawmakers, stop confusing lobbying with legitimacy. Follow the money when you see voices that are obsessively bashing the Crown Prince. And most of all, listen to Iranians inside Iran and respect their right to choose their own future. That is what real solidarity looks like, and that is the truth about the Iranian opposition. For years, Iranians have been saying something very simple and very uncomfortable, that the National Iranian American Council, NIAC, does not act like a neutral community group. It acts like an unofficial lobby for the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, for a long time, that claim was dismissed as angry rhetoric or exile infighting until this week. This week, a regime official went on a regime-affiliated political talk show and said the quiet part out loud. Take a look.
مطابق سبک خودمون که سبک خودمون چی باید باشه من شما میشینیم بعداً صحبت میکنیم الان
به سبک خودمون به سبک خودمون تریتا پارسی بود دیگه آقای دکتر.
حالا بله
اون لابی که گفتید رو خیلی خلاصه در حد 30 ثانیه میگم. ببینید اعراب لابیشون آدم محوره، میرن با کوشنر میبندن. اسرائیلیا لابیشون ساختار داره، نظام داره، پول داره، بودجه داره، آیپک داره، سیپک داره. این اسرائیلیا عرب اون شکل میرن. واسه ایران اینها مقدور نیست. واسه ایران این اجازه رو نمیدن. نمیشه لابی شما رفتید ساختید اونجا نایاک رو، آبرو و شرف ایران و ایرانی رو بردن اونجا. اصلا آبروریزی اونم که شد برجام شکست بود. والا به خدا نسخه‌ای که میپیچید خیلی ضعیفه و جواب نمیده.
You created a lobby called NIAC. Oops. Well, what we saw here obviously was them accidentally, because this is being recorded, implied that, of course, Trita Parsi, the co-founder of NIAC, and NIAC itself were both part of the regime's network. Not opponents, not outside actors, part of the system, which is what they've been accused of for years by Iranians. Now, that moment matters because it gives context to what we've been watching, particularly since protests broke out inside Iran in December. Narrative warfare, especially on social media. So when those protests began, the regime didn't just respond with executions and mass arrests. It responded with a full-scale information war spearheaded by the IRGC's cyber forces. Since December, the Islamic Republic has been running a coordinated disinformation campaign through these cyber units aimed primarily at foreign audiences. Yes, you. This was not random online chaos. It is a deliberate strategy and one they've used before. IRGC-linked networks activated large clusters of accounts across X, Telegram, Instagram, and YouTube. These were not all obvious bots like with flags and spam bios. They were designed intentionally to look believable. They posed as Western left-wing activists, as anti-war campaigners, human rights commentators, and even concerned Iranians calling for caution. And the point was plausibility. The messaging was remarkably consistent. Identical phrases appeared across unrelated accounts, warning of a Syria-like scenario, claiming that the protests were exaggerated or limited, directly accusing the US and Israel of supposedly orchestrating these protests, and insisting, of course, that there was no real alternative to the regime. This was not organic debate, it's coordinated message deployment. Just as important, this campaign was built for you, not for Iranians. The content was written in polished English and aimed at journalists, at policy analysts, at influencers, and regime violence, of course, was downplayed. Executions were cast as unconfirmed, and the very clear and public calls for Reza Pahlavi that were on the street across Iran were accused of being AI. At the same time, the risk of war, state collapse in a war that drags in the US, and regional instability was heavily exaggerated in all this content to create fear and hesitation in Western audiences. A core part of this strategy was also division. IRGC-linked accounts spent a disproportionate amount of time smearing Iranian opposition figures, and by that I mean Reza Pahlavi, especially those gaining international attention. The attacks on Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi followed a very familiar script. He's a foreign puppet, monarchy is a threat, he has no real support inside Iran. The goal wasn't to win an argument, but to create doubt and confusion, especially in Western leaders. And this is where NIAC and Trita Parsi re-enter the story. For years, both have pushed public positions that coincidentally align with the exact same regime objectives at precise moments. During major protest waves, including 2019 and 2022, when Iranians were calling for international pressure and accountability, NIAC focused its energy on opposing sanctions, opposing isolation of the regime, and warning that supporting the opposition was dangerous, even whilst Iranians were being butchered by that regime. Literally, when Iranians were being shot and executed, NIAC was lobbying against measures that would weaken the regime. And its co-founder, Trita Parsi, has consistently framed Israel and the United States as the primary drivers of instability, while consistently downplaying the role of the Islamic Republic itself. He has also repeated many anti-Semitic conspiracies claiming Zionist control of U.S. policy and other weird Jew-obsessed conspiracies that closely mirror the regime's own rhetoric. Now, this matters because when IRGC cyber networks push a message and that same message shows up in NGO statements, media, op-eds, and panel discussions, it creates an illusion that this is what Iranians think and feel. But it's not. You're seeing a carefully curated reality built by bots, amplified by useful idiots, and laundered through respectable-looking platforms. When you're convinced the protests are small, divided, or too risky to support, the regime buys time. And time is its most important weapon. This is why narrative warfare matters. Bullets silence people, but the narratives, they can silence movements. And the only remedy to that is education. We have to learn how coordinated inauthentic behavior works, to question identical talking points appearing across unrelated accounts. Pay attention to who benefits from these messages, and stop confusing NGO branding and representation and access with legitimacy. Above all, as I said before, listen to Iranians inside Iran, not the voices that consistently ask you to lower expectations, delay action, and accept the status quo. And now to wrap up the good, the bad, and the ugly, I actually have an amazing, not just good story for you today to start us off. Everyone has been talking about the Super Bowl ad from Robert Kraft's Blue Square campaign, but if you ask me, this is what the Super Bowl ad should have been. Check it out.
A story over a decade in the making, Israel bobsled. 3 months ago, 5 Jews, a Druze, and a Shiba Inu took Israel to the ice to fulfill an impossible dream.
Some call them shul runnings or the little sled that could. Truly just an inspiring run for a team that has made the impossible possible.
A story that can be described as only in Israel. Blood, sweat, tears, and a massive dose of never say never.
Bobsled's band of underdogs, now standing on the cusp of Olympic history. Hard to believe.
Shul runnings. I absolutely love it. It's so cool. And I have to say, I know AJ, the leader of this bobsled team, he also was an Olympian in skeleton, and they've been working for this for 12 years. I mean, it's truly, truly inspiring and an Israeli story of heart and historic achievement at the Milan Cortina 2026 Winter Olympics. And Israel is indeed sending its first ever bobsled team, as we saw, to the games, a group of athletes who came from really unexpected sports backgrounds. Like, I want to add a few more comments about this just because it's so cool. They came from pole vaulting, shot put, rugby, even, as I mentioned, AJ, who previously competed in skeleton at the Olympic Games. He actually taught himself bobsled by watching videos online. And this team qualified after years of pushing and training abroad, paying for everything themselves. And this is what makes this really special, I think, for me, is that for the first time in history, a Druze Israeli is representing the state of Israel at the Olympic Games. And it's also the first time anyone from the Arab society in Israel has represented Israel in the Winter Olympics as well. So 2 different major milestones of inclusion and pride for the Druze community and for the entire nation. This team is doing what Israeli athletes have always done best, overcoming the odds and making their country proud on the biggest stage despite the odds. So wishing good luck to all of Team Israel, and especially this amazing bobsled team, including AJ Edelman and all the team. We are with you. And today's bad story is a warning about a very real national security threat that's been happening here in Israel right under everyone's nose. Now, according to a new report, the Islamic Republic of Iran intelligence services have spent the last 2 years running a widespread recruitment campaign targeting Israeli civilians in an attempt to turn them into spies for sabotage, influence, and intelligence operations within Israel. We've heard about a few of them, but the Iranians are not only recruiting professional assets, they're throwing out small jobs and quick cash opportunities to cast a wide net and to get people to do simple tasks tasks that could lead to much deeper compromise. They're using social media phishing, messages online, recruitment offers, and financial incentives to lure, in particular, adolescents, students, and even adults with no security training who think that they're just doing small tasks until suddenly they're helping an enemy state operate inside Israel. The goal is sabotage, influence, and undermining Israeli society from the inside. It's also a reminder, of course, that Iranian intelligence is constantly looking for ways to exploit vulnerabilities beyond missiles and military threats, and that the battle for Israel's security happens online just as much as it does on the ground. And finally, the ugly story of this week is from none other than the New York City Mayor Mamdani, who this week cited Islam, yes, Islam, as the reason he signed an order limiting cooperation with ICE. So much for separation of church and state, right? Take a look.
And I consider my own faith, Islam, a religion built upon a narrative of migration. The story of the Hijrah reminds us that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was a stranger too, who fled Mecca and was welcomed in Medina. Surah An-Nahl 1642 tells us, "As for those who immigrated in the cause of Allah after being persecuted, we will surely bless them with a good home in this world." Or, as the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "Islam began as something strange and will go back to being strange. So glad tidings to the strangers."
So there's a few key aspects that the mayor failed to mention here. First off, Mamdani refers to the Hijra as his moral, backing for this new order limiting the city cooperation with ICE. But what is the Hijra story? Well, the Prophet Muhammad came to Medina from Mecca, where he faced persecution, and was welcomed by many there, including, of course, Christians and Jews who were there. Then, suddenly, the tone changed with permission for all manner of distasteful behaviors, from forced conversions to theft of property of non-Muslims to polygamy and sex slavery. After he built an army and slaughtered the non-believers, including the Jews of Khaybar, he incidentally returned to Mecca to conquer there too. So when Mamdani uses a story like this, or even uses the historical example of Islam, that's not a good thing. And let's not forget about the fact that when we talk about migration in Islam, a very generous term he applied there, historically speaking, we're not talking about immigration. We're talking about colonization and erasure of countless indigenous cultures in the Middle East and beyond. Islamic colonization took over and Arabized indigenous peoples across the region, and then went to tremendous efforts to rewrite history and present themselves as the victims, when in fact, they were the aggressors. This is gaslighting 101, and it's no wonder that we see such conduct from the charlatan of New York City, Zoran Mamdani. And with that ugly, ugly story, we wrap up this week's episode. But of course, we'll be back next week and later in the week with an exclusive interview with Shurat ad-Din CEO Nitzana Darshan-Leitner to discuss her critical work holding terror groups and regimes accountable in the courtroom. In fact, this week it was announced that the families of the victims in Majd al-Shams, the horrific attack by Hezbollah on a children's football field where 12 Israeli Druze children were killed, is suing Hezbollah for $25 million. Stay tuned for the interview only on JNS, and we'll see you next week on Axis of Truth.
You can go after their weapons, after their arsenal. You can kill the terrorists, but you cannot kill an idea. Money is the oxygen for everything, including terrorism. And if you block the flow of the money, you can block the flow of the terrorism.
Welcome back to Axis of Truth. I'm Emily Schrader, and in recent weeks, Druze families from northern Israel filed a historic lawsuit against Hezbollah for the deadly missile strike on a youth soccer field in Majd al-Shams. Now, this case is being led by Nitzana Darshan-Leitner, the CEO of Shurat ad-Din, the Israel Law Center, one of the world's foremost legal teams taking terrorists and their state sponsors to court. Today, we speak directly with Nitzana to understand the significance of this case and what legal accountability really means in the broader battle against terror. Nitzana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here.
Just to start, can you walk our audience through the legal strategy behind the Druze family's lawsuit against Hezbollah for that Majd al-Shams soccer field strike? What makes this case unique and why now?
Well, it's actually started a couple of months ago when the families of the children that were massacred in the Druze attack in Majd al-Shams approached me and my colleagues and asked if they can file a lawsuit against those who are responsible for this missile attack, Hezbollah and their sponsors. And quite frankly, suing Hezbollah is not a simple road, especially if you don't know what you're going to be doing in the end of the road. But we were determined to take this case on for two reasons. First, the families need a closure. The families need justice. The families need to know who is responsible for this attack. They need a judgment from a court declaring who sent this missile, who is responsible for the death of their loved ones. And second, to find Hezbollah responsible and to get him to pay. That's not an easy path, I'm not saying, but we found that Hezbollah has assets, has money in United States and elsewhere, which we are going to collect the judgment against these assets. So we get justice for the victims and make justice with Hezbollah.
Now, for families who have lost loved ones or suffered grievous harm, like these Druze families in Majd al-Shams, what does pursuing justice through the courts accomplish? I mean, beyond financial compensation, how does legal accountability support healing and deterrence?
Look, money doesn't bring back life. Money does not heal the broken spirit and broken soul of the injured. But money gives a measure of closure and a measure of justice. And the fight on behalf of the victims, the fact that they are feeling that they are no longer victims, they actually got to fight back. I represent a father of a little girl that was killed in the beginning of the Second Intifada in Jerusalem. And he's a doctor. And he came to me and he said, Nitzana, if I had a gun, I would have gone and shot these bastards. But I don't want to violate the law. And I don't have a gun. And I want you to pursue them in court. So this is the way of the civil society. And the victims are the player in these cases because you need those who got hurt to file this lawsuit. This is the way of the public sector to fight back.
I want to zoom out a little bit. Shurat Hadin has made international headlines for suing terrorist groups and their sponsors. Why is this kind of civil litigation such a crucial front on the fight against terrorism? What does it accomplish that diplomacy and military action does not?
So you can dismantle the organization. You can go after their weapons, after their arsenal. You can kill the terrorists, but you cannot kill an idea. Hamas, even if you throw everybody from Gaza, and if you destroy all their tunnels and you take all their weapons, Hamas remains an idea.